afternoon, sir.
Welcome
Good afternoon.
back.
Hello.
Welcome back, Roy.
I'm back. Yeah.
So you were in St. Lucia. Or hear a couple stories of that today. We haven't podcasted we didn't podcast last week or the week before last. I don't think.
Yeah,
did we?
so it's about 3
Yeah.
weeks.
So the week before last was our last one, I think.
Yeah,
With the two with
Well, that was
with
was that
the
3 weeks
Gubbins.
ago?
I don't know.
wasn't it?
I could be wrong.
Well,
Time.
which one did you have to cancel? You had to cancel.
I had
the
to
one-
cancel last week.
yeah.
the week. Yeah, well, the week before last. I was
Yeah,
in Austin. I was in Austin last week.
He was in Austin.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it was just this past. It was like the Monday past. I canceled. So the week before that,
We did one
was
Wednesday because we
Yeah.
didn't leave. We didn't leave till Thursday. You're right. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're a genius.
I'm used to you doubting me. It's okay.
I'm doubting Thomas, but
You
I'm
guys.
doubting Chad.
What's going on, Doc?
Anyway, welcome
Hey,
back.
nothing much. Yeah, I'm back from the Caribbean. Had a great time.
Aren't those the things that climbers use?
Yeah,
Carabiner.
Carabiners.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So you had never been to St. Lucia before?
No, never been to St. Lucia, and it's a wonderful little country, and I could recommend sandals very well.
Okay.
So
I prefer flip flops, but whatever.
I believe, and Shonda loves correcting me, but I think potentially we met off of the coast of St. Lucia.
yeah, Shonda told me that, and that's up to you guys what you do out on the on the ocean.
Well, there was nothing like that happened.
The
I assure you.
motion of the ocean.
Yeah.
It was the meeting cruise. There was nothing fast or weird like that. Anyway, that's very awkward.
Fast. What?
Well, it's always fast, but that's a different story. So, in the meantime, I want to before we get into your injury,
Yeah.
before you left town, we had a conversation, and you got something from me, and I want to.
What did you pass on to the dog?
I've got antibiotics for that kind of
but
stuff.
you're going to need more.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me restart this here, but I'm going to play a clip, not a very long clip, I don't think, and then we're going to follow up on something that we talked about.
Yeah.
Except I'm not on.
Cream is
Yeah, you are. Sorry.
actually FDA approved. Your dermatologist can prescribe it. Now, of course, the doctors hesitate to prescribe it, but it's a 1% ivermectin cream. You could treat rosacea. The ivermectin horse paste is actually 1.87%, so it's stronger. It's almost twice as strong. You can literally use it for any inflammatory or autoimmune skin condition. It'll treat cystic acne, which is the worst possible acne you can have, and it'll clear it completely. It'll clear eczema. Like I said, in many
pronounced
cases, it will clear
eczema.
psoriasis. But most impressive of all, it will clear skin cancers. And I now have tons of testimonials from patients who had either basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, melanoma. They started applying the horse paste twice a day. Within a couple of weeks, you see the lesion, the skin lesions start changing. You can see it. Just after a couple of weeks of application, the lesion starts changing, it starts getting smaller, and after a month or two, it may fall off completely and it's gone. You can treat any skin cancer with ivermectin paste, the horse paste, the $8-9 horse paste that you get at whatever
Rural
veterinary
thing.
supply.
Yeah.
Ivermectin
All right.
paste.
So that's a follow up, and you corrected his enunciation.
I don't think English is his
He's
first
from
language.
he's from Canada.
Yeah.
So he's probably got some French or
French
something.
stuff
He's
in
Canadian,
there,
eh?
Yeah.
He's Canadian.
I bet his favorite
Yeah.
band. I bet his favorite band's Rush.
So circling back to just prior to you leaving, you grabbed some horse paste off of
I
my
did.
shelf, and because you had something on your skin, you were gonna treat it.
Yeah, I had a actinic keratosis in both ears, and in the outer part of my ears. And actinic keratosis is the prelude to squamous cell carcinoma. And I've had a bunch of them on top of my head, and I've got 2 in my ears. And I've been putting horse paste on them for a couple of weeks, and they're getting away. And
Whoa! Really?
Yeah.
They're they're diminishing in size.
Oh yeah.
Did you do pictures, Lenny, before and after?
No, I
pictures?
didn't take.
Well, you didn't follow very good. You didn't follow instructions very well.
It's pretty hard to do a picture of your ear, you know.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But well, good news. Keep going.
Anyway, Patty, my partner, has a lot of things on her back. They're seborrheic keratosis, and I've been putting the ivermectin paste on her, and she has seen a decrease in the size of the lesions and all that sort of thing. I know it's going to take maybe another couple of months to get everything. I doubt it'll get everything gone, but it'll get them from an inch in diameter to quarter of an inch in diameter.
So this is not this isn't a study. It is it's basically we can't call it. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah.
There's improvement going on. I'm wondering if someone has skin tags or different things, on their body. If maybe if they just try them. The thing is, and Dr. Roy, I think you can confirm this thing that we're calling horse paste. I think it's called Duramectin. The one that I have, I got it up there on the shelf. There is no known side effects that anyone knows of, especially if it's on the if you do it on your skin.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any if you do it unless you do it in massive quantities. I don't think there's any for the ingesting it either. But
well, that's how they use it for the horses.
Right.
Is they've got marks on there of the weight of the horse, and that's how much you give them.
I think the whole thing is like for a 1,200-pound horse.
Yeah.
And they can just give them it's a one dose.
Usually I use little tiny dots of it and rub it in very well, and that works fairly good. It's worked pretty good on my actinic keratosis, which are pre-malignant
Wow.
things. So anyhow, I put it on top of my head as well. I'm going to see my dermatologist in April, and she will probably be surprised about that. She'll probably laugh at me when I tell her I've been using horse paste.
Well, make sure that you laugh. You tell her that you laughed at me when I told you that I had horse paste, and then you walked home with some.
That's a bunch of woo.
And now it is working based on the evidence that you're bringing.
It's working on two people in my house.
One happens to be a doctor, and one happens to be your patient.
Yeah.
And
no, she's
and
not
partner.
my patient. She's my partner.
She's got her own doctor. You and
Yeah.
I mean, if she needs something, you'd help her though. I mean, obviously.
I really don't.
You keep that
prescribe.
relationship separate.
Yeah,
that could get
I really
dicey.
don't prescribe for her.
That could get dicey.
Yeah.
Well, that's great news. And so to anyone hearing this, there's been a lot of things popping up in my feed because I'm paying attention to these things. When we're talking about ivermectin, we're talking about all the different forms of ivermectin, Duramectin, and fenbendazole, and all these different dog dewormers, and that. There's a lot of reels and stuff coming across the internet. And I promise you, if you start looking at, if you look it up on Facebook, search. These reels will start popping into your feed pretty quick. The clip that I just shared was Dr. William Mackus on Facebook. He talks about it a lot. I believe he has a cancer clinic which he treats people primarily with ivermectin and related products.
He's Canadian, but I think he's got some Balkan stuff in him.
Oh, okay.
Too,
yeah,
so.
yeah, you're right. He doesn't sound like pure Canadian.
Yeah, he's not pure Canadian. Yes. You put no.
Not Vulcan. Vulcan.
The people in the camera can't see what you're doing. You're doing this Dr. Spock.
Yeah.
That's Vulcan, not Vulcan.
Stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Whoops. So anyone interested, if you have, if you have skin related issues where you're always concerned about skin cancers popping up, or you have different things that pop up on your skin. I have several family members that do this. Part of the reason why I do what I do here is just researching in case these things start happening to me. Yeah. We can talk to a doctor about it. We can do some of our own research, find some anecdotal research. There is, I believe, a lot of case study and actual research that's been done on this, and there is a lot of good stuff coming back.
I've sold a lot of ivermectin in the last week. One was for a patient with long COVID, and one was for a gentleman who wanted to do a purge to get rid of whatever parasites he might have. He had no evidence of parasites other than the fact that he's heard everybody say everybody's got parasites.
Well,
they don't.
Yeah,
They don't.
I'm pushing. I'll push back on you a little bit there, just because I've seen so much. I believe the jury's out on that one. I don't know if I'm gonna.
If you've never been out of the United States, except to go to another first level country, the odds are very, very low that you've got anything.
What if a cat or a dog kisses you, or you and they have worms, or they have something that they licked and brought inside
Well, worms are designed for the host that they normally deal with, and if you get cat or dog worms, those worms don't thrive in your body very well. Now, and what they'll do is they'll die and they'll calcify, and I've seen pictures of people with calcifications in their skin and in their brain, actually, from dog parasites.
Well, I will tell you, I don't remember if we went the standard of care route or not, but I believe our oldest son had worms at some point. He had them in his stool.
That's pinworm.
Yeah, and so
those are reasonable to treat, and you can treat that with an over-the-counter thing. But when you start getting to the dog and the cat stuff, or the human types of that, you kind of have to be out of the country. Now, I'll tell you about a young lady who came to me. She was very distressed because she had just passed a ball of worms. And I said, okay, where you been? And she had been in Belize for 2 weeks. And I said, were you eating the local food? And she said, yes, I was. And I said, those are probably porcine, meaning from pigs, ascarids that couldn't survive in your body, and they formed a ball, and you passed that. But just to be certain, I gave her good medications, and she never had anything else come out. But she showed me the picture of the worms.
Yeah, I was going to have you rewind and make sure you said ball of worms, but apparently you did say ball of worms. So now, would tapeworm,
No, these are round worms.
No, I understand that, but would we consider tapeworm a parasite that ivermectin would take care of?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another medication that you use to treat tapeworms with.
I'm going to say the jury's out on that also. Just in the truth-seeking wheel. I'm not coming back and giving you direct pushback. But again, just from the same people that we're listening to, they're basically saying any bots, any parasites, anything like this, the Duromectin or ivermectin can act as something that helps those.
It can, but the tapeworms are a whole lot harder to kill than roundworms are. And there's an axiom: if the patient has both tapeworms and roundworms, you need to kill the roundworms first. So you give them the ivermectin and the bendazole, whatever that fenbendazole, and that kills the roundworms. And then you can give them the medicine that is specific for tapeworms.
You remember what that medicine is?
I do not.
Okay. Well, part of me is just kind of going around pharmaceutical as much as I can, even though I know ivermectin is a pharmaceutical product.
Yeah,
it's not. We're not going around it. It was created in the pharma environment, and I'm assuming like Duromectin, very similar in the pharma environment, but for animals and horses and dogs. And
Duromectin is ivermectin. It's just in a very low amount, and it's for getting rid of roundworms in livestock. You can use that on pigs. You can use that on cows. You can use it on horses. But I mean, there's an awful lot of ivermectin that goes in with one dose of that, because it's about 3 milliliters of the stuff. But and it you know, it's a nice white paste, and it goes on the skin easily, and you can rub it in and that sort of thing. So I've got a bunch of it at home that I'm using on my partner and myself. So
Well, I'm going
So
to give you
for-
some.
oh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I would say for tapeworm, the generic or the active ingredient is called biltricide. Looks like the medication is called praziquantel.
yes,
Praziquantel.
that's
I want to say
Praziquantel.
you can grab that Duromectin paste whenever you're not actively editing, and
Yeah.
that whatever you just said, that there's a side in. I think there's something aside in that. I don't know. I don't remember the
Looks like it says
ingredients.
boticide.
Well, there's more. Yeah.
And,
So there's, but
Well,
that's not.
bots are from flies.
Yeah.
They get under the skin and lay their eggs, and the larva is there. And humans can get that too. And the way we used to get rid of them was we'd stick a pair of forceps into the mouth of the thing and pull it out.
That's gross.
that is
Yeah, it
wild.
was-
Yeah.
Oh man, if you've never seen that or done that, it is gross.
Quit talking about it. It's going to show up in my Facebook feed, and I'll be getting.
Hey, yeah. Let me tell you.
Got to change that.
Let me tell you, I've treated an awful lot of people with parasites. But if somebody says, "Oh, I'm weak all the time. I must have parasites," I'm not buying that.
Yeah, well, so I'll just say, okay, again, I'm not. I've watched a lot of clips. We actually had one episode I
Yeah.
think we looked at where they were talking about that a lot. I'm going to give you my own anecdotal evidence, also just of ivermectin in general. Everywhere we go, no matter what, I carry it just in case.
Yeah, me
in
too.
case something
I
happens.
took it to St. Lucia with me.
Yeah, in case something happens,
Yeah.
you're whatever. I also take there's a series of vitamins and minerals and stuff that are recommended by Peter McCullough. But anyway, so we went to Austin last week, and I got there, and my stomach was off. It had been kind of off for a couple days, and I'm just like,
Was it in Houston?
no, Austin.
No, you were in Austin. But if you're never mind. If your stomach
You said-
was off, it'd
Yeah, you
be
said your
in
stomach was
Houston.
like
Yeah.
yeah. He was saying like elsewhere, like off,
It-
like off on a walkabout or
packed
something.
Packed up its.
Potentially. I could have. I don't know.
I'm
But
leaving.
I started taking ivermectin, and within 24 hours, not only was my stomach issue whatever, but I actually felt more energy. I mean, I just felt better generally.
Yeah.
And like just so I'm only saying that it's anecdotal. I'm
Well,
not
let
a
me-
doctor, but I
yeah.
use it because we watched that one episode that we did. I mean, I think we spent about an hour on it, and the guy was talking about anytime, and he was talking to Macus, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, anytime I go to get on an airplane, I take ivermectin. Anytime I'm getting, going
That's-
anywhere where there's a lot of people, I'm
that's
just saying.
a waste of ivermectin.
Well, yeah, that's.
That's that's.
But Kristen
kinda woo.
Kristen Gubbins that was in here and talking
Yeah.
to, she takes it. I think she takes it every day based on what
Yeah.
and her story is pretty amazing. And again, she pumped you up a lot. She loves you.
Yeah.
She was disappointed you weren't here to talk to her. So I just think I believe the jury is still out on what all ivermectin can or can't do.
It's true. And, the ivermectin was originally brought into pharmacy as something that would kill the worms that can get in the eyes and cause blindness in Central Africa. And that's where the Nobel Prize was awarded for, was the curing of river blindness from these tiny little worms that destroy the eyes. But I think I agree with you. Ivermectin has a lot of things that it can do that won't necessarily, be written up or anything like that. So I don't mind somebody taking ivermectin for everything like that, but it's probably a waste. So anyhow,
Okay,
we're
So-
going to talk about DMSO now?
Yeah, so I just pulled up the article that I sent you prior to you leaving town, I think.
Yeah.
Basically, it was the Forgotten Side of Medicine is the blog, MidwesternDoctor.com,
Yeah.
who contributes to Vigilant Fox a lot. Wrote something on June 21st, 2025, I'm not
Well,
gonna
I
say-
was
I'm not-
I was back in town from that
Okay.
that one.
So they basically, it said DMSO is an umbrella remedy capable of treating a wide range of challenging ailments due to its combination of therapeutic properties, reducing inflammation, improving circulation, and reviving dying cells. And so, obviously we're talking about all the other things about how we can help cells with methylene blue.
Yeah.
We're talking about the sun story, the sun and blocking blue light story as far as rejuvenating mitochondria and helping cells. So everything that we're talking about is cellular rehabilitation. And so
Yeah.
when this came across my feed, I basically was like, Doc,
Yep.
have you heard of this? You mind
Yeah.
checking it? You mind checking it out? And you agreed to. So here we are.
Sure.
This is.
Well,
tell me what your thoughts are.
I've been aware of DMSO since 1964. Somebody in one of my classes came up with a little talk on DMSO at that time, and it is a very good arthritic or anti-pain thing. If you want to see, I've got a bottle of it right here, and you can buy this on the internet. It's not terribly expensive, and DMSO will penetrate the skin of humans and get into the bloodstream, and there are a lot of things that can happen once it gets into the bloodstream. And furthermore, you can dissolve other drugs in DMSO if they're dissolvable, and put the whole compound on your skin, and it will put that in your system at a greater amount. That's him beating up on the.
Oh yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So is that topical then?
Yeah, it's topical. You don't. I said we were going to do shots, but no, you're not going to drink this stuff. It's,
Okay.
It's topical, but it's very good. I tore my hamstring on Monday of this week, and it was excruciating. I didn't think I was going to get back to the house. I was about a half a mile away from the house when I tripped and tore it. But I did, and the first thing I did was go for the DMSO, and it works. I put some on before I came here, and it decreases the inflammation, and it decreases the pain. That's for sure. But there was a time back in the 1960s when they were talking about putting all kinds of drugs into DMSO and bypassing the liver, because a lot of times if you take medications through your mouth and swallow it, they go immediately to the liver, and the liver will tear those things up. That's why we often will do, for hormones, we will put them in a patch and get them through the skin. Otherwise, people use troches that you can put in under your tongue, and it will dissolve, and the tongue will absorb it, and it goes into the bloodstream rather than into the intestinal system. DMSO was banned from use in humans back in about 1966 or 67. And that was because there were some trials that it caused problems with the lenses of the eyes in animals. So anyway, I don't have...
Sounds like a convenient excuse for pharmaceutical.
Well, it was the FDA that did that.
Well,
But
they're believable.
Same deal.
Yeah, same deal. Well, I mean, if it was a pharmacy company, they'd be pushing everything.
Yeah.
I don't care if it makes your kid autistic. We'll give it to him anyway.
So
The crazy thing is if this were 2019, I would totally push back and be like, yeah, it's the FDA. They're going to take care of us.
you're done.
Yeah.
Why would you say
Why
that?
would you say that, Chad?
Yeah,
And
so-
now it's like, FDA, what the hell?
So Doc Roy, this is interesting, and
Yeah.
I'm using Grok more or less on some things, and I'm not relying on it a lot. But so I just basically took the article that I sent you put it into Grok, and I said, I'm getting ready to have a conversation on a podcast with Dr. Roy. Help me summarize the article and bring some questions and some things that might
Sure.
be helpful. And so I think for me, this is one of the things that AI is really good at. And so it summarizes it was a very long article, and it had all kinds of graphs and charts and, with actual feedback and scientific studies and all that thing. So there's several things that are interesting to me. It says DMSO is safe, versatile solvent with anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and antimicrobial properties, enhances drug delivery by carrying medications across membranes, targeting hard-to-reach areas like brain, eyes, and deep tissues, and can reduce the effective dose of drugs, making treatment safer and less toxic. All of those things sound fantastic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Therapeutic combinations include, and this is something that because I'm researching tinnitus or tinnitus,
Yeah.
I call it tinnitus. It's technically tinnitus. But the first thing that it says in therapeutic combinations, DMSO combined with anti-inflammatory drugs like dexamethasone,
Dexamethasone.
lidocaine, shows promising in treating tinnitus, a condition with limited conventional options. So I think Travis has talked about having tinnitus. I think you've talked about having tinnitus.
Yep.
You've started taking it. I don't know if that's why you're taking it or you're just, taking it to whatever. So
No, I'm taking it for my injury.
Oh, you're just
Yeah.
you're just applying it to your hamstring.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So would I put on a Q-tip and shove it in there or what?
No, you don't do that.
I know.
Okay, so so it's interesting to me because you're saying it is something that you use on the exterior, but how do you treat tinnitus with the other drugs using this? I mean, how would those two work in combination? I wonder.
Well, actually, DMSO enables the drugs to go through the skin and get into the bloodstream rather than having to go through the intestinal system.
Okay, so if I was putting lidocaine, would I do that exterior for tinnitus? Would I?
No.
Okay, so that's a pill. Okay, so if I'm using DMSO along with lidocaine or one of the other ones, how would I use that with this if I can't put that? I can't drink
put it on your skin somewhere.
Okay. Well,
And-
I think
and
maybe
Like the ear or something? Or
No, not. It doesn't have to. I mean, once it gets into your bloodstream, it'll go everywhere.
Okay.
So the best places where the skin is the easiest to get to is the front of the abdomen or the back of the thigh.
Breaking news real quick. I just got a push that the House Republicans currently have the votes to proceed with the big, beautiful bill. We don't have to talk about it at all, but that's breaking.
we're going to talk about it in a little while.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. I just got that.
But there, the dimethyl, whatever you talked about, that is easily torn up by putting it in the intestines. You might put in 5 milligrams, and after the liver has worked on it, you may have about 0.5 milligram left. Whereas if you dissolve it in DMSO and put it on your skin, now let me stop right here and tell you, don't grind up the pills and put them in the DMSO. It doesn't work that way. What you have to do is dissolve the pill in either water or in ethyl alcohol, and then mix that with the DMSO and apply it to your skin.
Okay, so when I just asked Grok if I'm wanting to use DMSO with tinnitus treatment, basically it said use pharmaceutical grade DMSO 99.9% purity. You could buy that on Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay. To ensure safety and minimize irritation, DMSO is legally available under the 1994 DSHEA Act. Lidocaine source obtain a prescription strength lidocaine, so it says lidocaine. Dilution, DMSO is typically diluted to 50 to 70% with sterile water or saline to reduce skin irritation.
Yeah.
For sensitive areas like the ear, a lower concentration, example 50%, may be preferred. So Grok, looking at the article, says, maybe applying it to the ear. You talk about applying it to the abdomen. So, I don't know. It would make more sense doing it to the ear to me, but you're putting a pill in your mouth to treat tinnitus or tinnitus, and the pill circulates throughout your body. But it's only
Yeah.
really helping here. So, anyway, it's just interesting to me. Obviously, I'm super interested in this now because you've started using it, and using it in combination might help me and Travis and whoever else has tinnitus.
Well, I actually mixed this up with lidocaine stuff and put it on my leg.
So you did that. You did that.
Yeah, Icy Hot has lidocaine in it.
Oh, okay.
So you just
Yeah.
brought up. So is there a pill that is supposed to help with tinnitus? Because I don't think there's any kind of oral
There's
medication.
really-
Well, so it
not.
says. Well, here it says eardrops, if prescribed. Some protocols may involve DMSO lidocaine drops for ear
Yeah.
canal. So this requires precision formulation to avoid irritation or damage. Provider might recommend a dilute solution instilled in small amounts, 2 to 3 drops. So anyway, obviously talk to a doctor. Dr. Roy is walking you through what he might do on one of his patients.
Would there be any concern of damage from doing like the eardrops? You think?
Potentially, yeah, because if you put it on your skin, some people get irritation. Now, I've been putting the straight stuff out of the bottle here on the back of my thigh and it hasn't caused me any problems at all.
Yeah, it says safety precautions. DMSO can cause mild burning or irritation. Mm-hmm. Test in a small area first. So if you have super sensitive skin,
Yeah.
just take one area and try it.
Put a drop on it.
You mentioned when you got in here, it's a garlic-like odor.
Yes.
It has. So when you put it on your skin, you kind of smell like garlic.
Well, actually, more than that, you don't smell it, you taste it. It gets into your bloodstream and you taste.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's in your urine too. The first time I put it on there, I noticed when I went to the bathroom, it smelled like garlic.
Isn't the skin an amazing? Skin is an amazing organ. You can do that. I don't know if you've ever noticed it. Have you ever, after hunting, cleaned your fowl or your
Yeah.
and you smell it?
Yeah,
And like it when you go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
you smell it. It's the craziest thing.
yeah.
Like hunt quail and you clean quail, and then when you go to the
Smell
bathroom
like
next,
quail.
it smells like quail
Yeah.
poop.
Yeah.
So
That happens to me with coffee. I don't know if you guys.
yeah, sometimes
When you
if
drink
it's
coffee,
strong
you-
coffee.
I drink a lot of coffee, man. It never bothers me, but
No, but does your urine smell like coffin?
no.
Coffee. I mean,
It maybe has once or twice, but not routinely.
it does me all the time. Anytime I drink.
Asparagus is
Oh,
one
yeah.
vegetable that
You can have one bite and it'll go right through.
yeah, it'll go right through you and that. But I smelled it the first day that I put it on there, and I haven't had any problems since.
Well, obviously, again, do your own diligence. Talk to a doctor. There is a risk on lidocaine as well as there are with any pharmaceuticals. Grok has said excessive lidocaine can cause systemic toxicity.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Examples: seizures or heart issues. Adhere
I have-
strictly to prescribed doses and avoid overuse.
I have seen in my early days of medicine, before I even started medical school, I saw a patient who had been injected with too much lidocaine, and he went into seizures, and it was not a pretty thing. Basically, he had a very large knife cut all the way down from his shoulder to his pubic area, and it was a deep one, but it hadn't entered the inside. So we were going to sew that thing up, and
Good Lord.
the doctor kept asking for more lidocaine to numb it up, and that's when the guy went crazy.
Is that a temporary thing? Like once
Yeah.
it goes through the system, then he's okay? Or
Well, if he survives. I mean, if he
Okay.
starts having seizures or problems with his heart, he doesn't. Now, when people have heart attacks and have problems with their heart rates, we can sometimes put them on a lidocaine drip, and that will slow things down. But you don't want to give just a big bolus of lidocaine intravenously. That's a trip to the morgue.
Well, this is one of those, potential treatments for things that I hope RFK's new board or whatever whatever he called it. He just fired a bunch of people and he put a bunch of new people in. Or maybe that was just
on
vaccine. It's just vaccine
yeah,
safety.
It wasn't just everybody.
But anyway, so like studies and like information like this,
Yeah.
if we could generate a way to start doing some rapid studies and getting direct
Sure.
feedback immediately. I mean, that would be to me the most outstanding thing that we can do. But so just to round it out, the MSO, he used it for a topical, Dr. Roy used it for topical on a hamstring injury with lidocaine.
Yeah, with lidocaine.
And
Well, actually, it was icy hot.
So
which has lidocaine in
Okay.
it. Yeah.
You had almost immediate,
Improvement.
Improvement.
It still hurt.
oh yeah.
Yeah, but
Hamstrings are not
did,
good.
it hurt. It doesn't hurt near as bad as it did right after it happened.
How often are you putting it on?
About 3 times a day.
Kind of as needed. Once
Yeah.
it feels like it kind of wears off a little bit.
I put it on right before I came over here.
That's why you smell like not a garlic.
Garlic, yeah, okay. Thank you, guys.
Well, we don't have to worry about vampires, so it'll be
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Yeah. So I think I had a clip on tinnitus. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was too busy enthralled by what you were saying. I don't have it really queued up here, but if I find it real fast, I
Is
will.
it just the sound of like, is that the whole clip?
well,
Like
it can be all different things. Mine
know.
sound like cicadas, but I hear the cicadas in January,
Mm-hmm.
and they aren't out there.
It's fun to hear him once a year for a little bit, but it's not
Yeah.
fun to hear him all the time.
And that's what mine is. I hear it all the time.
Well, so this is a clip, and I don't remember, but again, I was looking at different. That's tetanus. That's not tinnitus. I think, unless it.
Oh, there's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a bit of
between
a-
the
bit of
two.
a-
Well, let me
Yeah.
just play this because I thought at least he was talking about tinnitus, but maybe he wasn't. But I still had the clip saved, so I'm going to play it real quick.
You should have had a tetanus shot, right?
Tetanus.
Well, that's what we've been told.
This is a
the
big
tetanus
jump.
shot changed everything for me. It was the last toxin I ever had injected in my body, and it made me so incredibly sick that it forced me to look into what was actually in it. Believe it or not, tetanus vaccines are usually
Let's not do that right now.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to trigger Roy, and that's completely off topic.
You're going to trigger me on that.
It's a bunch of woo.
Because the thing about it is tetanus is in the dirt, and if you step on a rusty
No, he didn't.
nail
He
or
didn't say
something
that tetanus wasn't a thing. So I don't
Yeah.
want to get you down that path. That's not what he was saying. So I'm not. Maybe we just play it and then you see.
He
what
was saying
said.
the tetanus shot messed
Yeah.
up.
Well, it can do that to some people.
Yeah.
Not every person.
No vaccines are 100% safe for everyone. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, maybe I should play it now that it's been. What do you think? Should I just play it?
I don't know.
We'll see. Well, I was curious enough to it was interesting at some level enough for me to save it into the thing here. So listen.
You should have had a tetanus shot, right? Well, that's what we've been told. The tetanus shot changed everything for me. It was the last toxin I ever had injected in my body, and it made me so incredibly sick that it forced me to look into what was actually in it. Believe it or not, tetanus vaccines are usually made from rotting organs, something worth knowing if you're vegan or vegetarian. They use cow heart and boil it in water to create an environment for Clostridium tetani, the bacteria that produces the tetanus toxin, to grow. They then neutralize the toxin with formaldehyde and mix it with aluminum adjuvants. No wonder it made me feel like death. Another thing that people should know is that tetanus doesn't even come from rust at all. It actually comes from a bacteria that lives in horse or cow manure and sometimes soil or dust. So unless you're working on a farm or walking barefoot through manure, your risk of tetanus is extremely low. And if you have a milk allergy, the tetanus vaccine contains casein and can cause fatal anaphylaxis, yet most people are never warned about this. Getting the booster every 10 years is also another vaccine schedule joke, as studies have shown that there's no difference in protection between people who get the booster every 10 years versus those who receive it every 30. But here's the wildest part. Even if you're one of the less than 30 cases in the US each year and you actually get exposed through a deep oxygen deprived wound, an additional shot, which is the protocol, wouldn't even help you because it takes 2 to 7 weeks to build antibodies after the shot. If you're already infected, it's too late. Instead, just take 1 gram of vitamin C, preferably from a whole food source, for 5 to 7 days.
Oh,
in a clinical
bullshit.
study, this approach resulted in 100% survival in children with tetanus.
You can follow up on that, but he said there's a clinical study. We'll keep going. And
Yeah.
he showed
Well,
the clinical
the
study.
The
Can't
thing
reduce
about
more.
it is,
I started laughing before he even said bullshit because I knew he was coming.
But again,
Yeah.
there's clinical study. So this is the truth-seeking apparatus that we're building here. So I understand it sounds funny just to say vitamin C is going to do that. But
Mortality
let's
in
finish
adults.
it.
We don't
there
need more
are
vaccines. We need more
antibodies
truth
that can
and
be
a little more
injected
vitamin.
immediately.
Yeah.
we have antibodies to tetanus, and if we have someone who has tetanus, we don't give them the shot. We give them the antibodies, and that is why they usually prime. But if you could cure tetanus with a glass of orange juice, which is you're talking about vitamin C, then why don't we? And the answer is we don't.
It probably costs less. No, I'm kidding.
let me finish it, and then we'll see if he says anything that you want to fight about.
And see. If you step on a rusty
Oh wait,
nail,
already.
you should have had a tetanus shot, right? Well, that's
Oh no, that was just he was over. So he didn't say anything too outlandish there.
Other than
The vitamin C
Take
treatment.
Other than everything he said. No.
yeah.
No, but I mean,
Well, he has, if he had a reaction to it, that's because his body, had a reaction to it. So, and that can happen in any injection.
I was going to do. Do you want to do while I'm continuing the conversation here? Do you want to do a grok and see if there's a clinical trial or study for vitamin C and tetanus?
There aren't that many cases of tetanus per year.
Yeah, he said
so
that.
it's-
I mean, he said some things that I think were
Yeah,
generally accurate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, in my career, I've seen 4 cases of tetanus, and only one of them survived.
Wow. Yeah, I know you talked about that being a very. You talked about that before, and it's a bad one.
It is, because it makes every muscle in your body go into complete rigor, and there are some bad things.
And rigor, when you usually get rigor mortis after you die, right?
Yeah,
but
and
it happens
get it.
before.
And
as you're dying.
obviously you die because you can't breathe. So we put these people on ventilators, and they put them on medications that decrease the rigors in their muscles, and just hope for the best. Give them the antibodies, but 3 out of 4 of them didn't survive.
So this says here that there have been case studies exploring the potential effects of vitamin C in treating tetanus. One notable trial conducted in Bangladesh involved 117 tetanus patients and examined the effect of intravenous vitamin C, 1 gram per day.
So not orange juice, but intravenous, like
Yeah.
a drip, I guess, of some sort.
Yeah.
or an injection. Yeah, it doesn't really go beyond that, but administered but it says also administered alongside standard tetanus treatments.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Well, it does say that the study reported significant reductions in mortality in certain age groups. Children 1 to 12, there was a 100% reduction in case fatality rate. Patients 13 to 30, a 45% reduction in case fatality rate. But then it goes on to say, however, the trial was not properly conducted, and therefore the findings should be interpreted with caution. So I don't know, but it doesn't say what the non-properly conducted portion would be.
And it would be interesting. Well, I mean, you said 3 out of the 4 people that you
Yeah.
saw died of tetanus, and they just said, these treatments plus standard, whatever standard. I wish it said
Well,
what is standard treatment?
the antibodies.
Probably getting the
putting them on-
antibodies, yeah, I would
Putting
think.
them on medications that will cause their muscles not to.
But the ones that the 3 out of 4 that died for you received those medications.
Yeah. Yeah. We
So-
had them on ventilators and given the.
So I'm saying,
Antibodies
I guess
and everything
me playing
else.
the devil's advocate in this might just say maybe the vitamin C drip has been added since you saw those 3 to 4, and it
Yeah.
just hasn't trickled down to you because you haven't had to deal with it. Honestly.
No, I haven't had to. I mean, this was all back in the 1970s.
Yeah. So maybe the vitamin C thing is a newer
Yeah.
development. And no one here on this program, Dr. Roy, expects you to know everything on every disease that happens every time.
Why not, goddammit?
Well, I mean, you're just like anybody else, but at the same
Yeah.
time, when someone comes in or says, I have this going on, you've got to go through your information and research and all that, and then you come to these things. You don't come to the table just knowing everything about everything that ever comes across you.
No.
So it's interesting. But anyway, I don't know. No more on that, Travis. You didn't have anything.
That was the.
Well, you mentioned the big, beautiful bill. I've got.
It's big. It's beautiful.
I'm a mixed bag on it right now. I don't love it in some ways. I do love it in other ways.
It's bigly beautiful.
It's huge.
Huge.
This is a 59-second clip, if I can get it queued up.
Billions and billions and
Billions.
and billions. Have you seen that clip? It's hilarious. It's just Trump saying billions over and over, just different clips every time. Anyway,
You got my sound on?
I do.
Here we go.
I have to say, Scott, him saying I'm not going to vote for Medicaid cuts and then he voted for this bill, which like very clearly does cut Medicaid.
Yeah, but who does it cut Medicaid for? Illegal aliens, people
yeah,
who won't get off
that's
grandma's
right.
couch despite
Yeah.
being
Exactly it.
able-bodied adults.
Right, but hang on.
It is a
Let me
protection
play.
of the social
I
security
actually
net.
know
Let him
too much
answer the
about this
question.
because I used to be a healthcare policy reporter on Capitol Hill. Okay, so putting that hat on for a second, the people that are really going to suffer, and the reason this is a problem for Lisa Murkowski and Josh Hawley, are the rural hospitals with emergency rooms into which people like that may walk. And if they don't have Medicaid, they're not getting any, that hospital is not getting any money from that person or from the federal government.
Well, the Senate included a massive fund for rural hospitals. I think it was $50
Yeah.
billion, or do they wind up? I forget where they wound up, but a massive fund to cover just what you're talking about. So some care was put into thinking about how do you protect rural hospitals from downside outcomes. So I think that's one of the reasons they're ultimately going to get it over the line is because they actually worked to fix little individual pieces that had people upset.
I have to say, Scott,
So my only take on this is, first of all, if you don't follow Scott Jennings on Facebook Reels, he's on CNN all the time, and I can't usually stand CNN for whatever reason. I don't know why. It appalls me in a lot of ways, but he's on there, and good for CNN. They do have him on there, and he is like, there could be 6 people on there just to go against what he's saying, and he is so targeted at destroying people.
Knocks them all down.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. They're supposed to be taking 8 million people off of Medicaid, but those are 8 million people that weren't supposed to get Medicaid in the first place.
Yeah, so they're talking about removing illegal aliens from Medicaid, and what percentage of Americans know that illegal aliens are on Medicaid? They're just given. There's people in America that don't have insurance,
Yeah.
don't have anything, and we're giving it to people that are not even from this country and don't
That's
pay tax.
right.
I don't know. I don't understand what the argument is really at the core.
So one of the things where they were talking about Medicaid, so I know this because I remember reading it, is that if you're able-bodied without any dependents,
Yes.
you'll be required to work at least 80 hours a month. 80
Yes.
hours a month. I work that in like 7 days.
Yeah.
So I
do
mean,
too.
I think So I think they can do that, but
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
that's the thing, and he was saying, get off of grandma's couch and go out and get a job.
So I've got a little bullet point here of what kind of one thing it talks about tax breaks, and the tax breaks will actually help affect the working class more than the upper class as far as percentage wise goes. Tax deductions, child tax credit is going to go up. There's a lot of tax things there. Border security and immigration, allocating monies for border wall construction infrastructure, as well as state assistance with federal immigration enforcement, defense spending, aviation and infrastructure for aviation in the FAA air traffic systems. Let's see here. Repeals or phases out clean energy tax credits, which I do remember reading about this too.
Yep.
From the Inflation Reduction Act, says potentially risking 686,000 jobs, but retains transferability for some credits through 2031. Then with the Medicaid, I talked about that. Introduces the work hour requirements. Let's see here. More frequent eligibility checks. Let's see. SNAP. There's some SNAP changes too, which has to do with imposes requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents, which is great. So that's education creates a national tax credit voucher program for private school tuitions. That's what you and I were talking about earlier today, Chad.
Yep.
Up to $5 billion annually in House version, and then $4 billion in Senate. So that I'm getting this from Grok, so he doesn't know it doesn't know the difference or what the exact amounts are right now. Let's see here.
Well, they're still working on the exact amounts because
Yeah.
the bill is still being chewed on.
Well, it passed the Senate. Like it said that there's enough votes to pass in the Senate as well.
Well, it passed the Senate. It's got to go through the House, and there's
But
still,
it went through the House already.
Oh, it did.
Well,
Yeah.
but it has to go back to the House because the Senate changed it. So the House has to ratify.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Debt ceiling. They're looking to raise the debt ceiling to avoid default. Let's see here. Federal work taxes, retirement benefits. Let's see. So the federal workforce that taxes retirement benefits and imposes a 5% pay cut for employees retaining merit-based civil service protection. Let's see what else we got. Congressional Budget Office. Let's see, it's going to add to the federal deficit, which everybody's barking about. Okay, so they're losing health insurance. So that's kind of where we talked about the Medicaid and SNAP, but a lot of that is due to illegal immigration.
Yes.
Not necessarily anybody
Well,
else.
I'm looking for a clip on Snap right now that I have for this.
SNAP is for food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a reason why they're cutting a lot of that back. So I'm going to get to that. But keep going on your.
Let's see here. So there's economic growth. The Tax Foundation estimates a 0.8% long-run GDP increase due to permanent tax cuts and expensing provisions. Let's see here.
Are they taking away tax on Medicare?
I
On
haven't.
your Social
I
Security,
haven't
mean?
seen that.
Yeah.
So it is
No,
taken
I think
away.
that was a
for
big part of it. I don't think
and
they were going to tax Social Security anymore.
I know tips and overtime aren't taxed.
Did,
that already
did
went
Social
away,
Security not
but-
make it?
I don't think Social Security made it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's going to get some Democrats fired.
Let's see here. Let's see. Delivers largest tax cut for middle and working class families.
Democrats were the ones that started taxing Social Security. Joe Biden,
Was one of the originators.
one of the originators of
Jackass.
that. All these people are getting all this money and not paying tax on it. Okay.
So apparently, are you still? Hang on. What are you doing?
So now it's bullet points of.
I wasn't
of
talking about you. What are you doing? I was talking about this
concerns
video.
and criticisms. So yeah, no, now I'm pretty much over with the
All right.
actual facts. Now it's just criticism.
So
and controversy.
RFK. I guess this particular clip was in front of Arizona legislator or something. They've got HB 2164 banning ultra processed foods in public school meals. HB 2165 seeks to restrict SNAP purchases for
Yes.
sugary sodas. So this is a clip here I want to share.
If you find a legislator or political leader in this state, go out and find one after this meeting who did not support the SNAP waiver legislation. Ask them why. Get them to offer you a rational explanation. I guarantee you they will not come up with one. Why are we paying for sugar drinks that are poisoning our kids and giving them diabetes? If you want a Coke, God bless you, go get one. But the taxpayer should not be paying that in a nutrition program. This is supplemental nutrition. There are no nutrients in that soda. There are none. And why are we paying for that? We should be paying for healthy. We're going to pay for it twice. We're going to pay for it now, and then we're going to pay for it with the diabetes bills later on. Ask them to give you a rational explanation and then sit there and say that does not make any sense. What is the real reason that you voted against this bill? And do your investigation and find out how much money they are taking from the soda industry. And you look at all of these public health groups like the American Heart Association that oppose this legislation. How can they do that? Ask them, how much money are you taking from the soda industry? This is clear cut. There is no reason to vote against this bill except for sheer corruption, because you've been bought off through a system of legalized bribery. And I'm very proud of these legislators and senators for standing up for the health of the people of Arizona.
That's our clapping.
Booyah. So Robert Kennedy had a couple real big downs for me this last week or two, and a lot of really good ups. This was one of the ones where it just knocks it out of the park. There's no reason why. First of all, we're giving SNAP, and you can go into any gas station, convenience store, and use SNAP for almost anything. And as he just said, we have diabetes going through the roof. We have sick people. We have ADHD. We have all these different things going on. And we're allowing low-income families to purchase stuff for their kids and themselves, for giving them free sugary drinks, and then they get sick, and then we have to fix them for getting sick. I mean, it's perverse incentives all around. I don't know if you guys have any more to say about that. The claps were good enough for you,
Yeah,
Travis?
I gave it the clap.
I knew that was going to come
That's
out.
not the first time he's
My
ever
bad.
said that.
My bad.
That's not the first time he's ever said that. All right, so this is kind of unrelated. But it is on RFK. This is one of the good ones. Should I do another good one before I do a bad one on RFK?
Yeah.
Or do you want to do a sandwich? Do you want to do a compliment sandwich?
Let's watch this clip
Okay.
because I think it hits on something that we've talked about on this program quite a few times, and me and Dr. Roy have had a little bit of friction on it. I think, maybe. I don't know if this is one that we had friction on, but we'll play this and see what we hear. This is not an official. And if you're not watching, there's a gal on here that's got to Make America Great Again. I think it's Make America Great. Yeah, not great. But just give it a hear.
135% increase.
1,135%
Of
increase.
what, you may ask? There was a study that was covered up by the CDC
Oh,
that showed a
that's bad.
1,135% increase in autism with kids that got the hepatitis B vaccine. Do you know when they get the hepatitis B vaccine?
At birth.
Tell ya. They get it right when they're born, within an hour or two. Why do they get this vaccine, you ask? It's to eliminate STDs. Unless your child is coming out the womb looking for strippers, I don't think it's necessary. RFK Jr. revealed this.
I was making it rain singles when I came out. No, not really. I'm just kidding.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, I thought that was the end of it.
Now they're going to dig deeper into it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And as a mom of a child on the autism spectrum, who I guess it could have come from the hepatitis B, but it happened at 18 months after his MMR. The fact that this stuff is actually getting looked into is absolutely incredible. It's something I've been fighting for 9 years. And when, not if, when they find the link, there's going to be a lot of lawsuits. 1,100.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I thought that was
I
the
don't
end of
know
it.
what she said in between there.
I
I'm
would
sure
have-
it was good.
I would well, whatever. I would have some pushback on it. Was just because of what she said, because I'll even push back on kind of what she said a little bit, because she really pigeonholed like the whole, well, if they're coming out looking for strippers. Well, it also has to do with the mom and anything that's happened there. And not
Yes.
saying she was looking for strippers either, but I'm just saying, unfortunately,
She was being
both sides.
she was being sarcastic there, by the way.
Yes, I know, but she didn't actually. She just said that it's an ST. She tried to make it seem like only if the kid gets an STD is the reason for this, and that's not really the truth. Now, I'm also on your side about not getting it immediately, but both sides of the aisle do this shit, and I hate it. And it's just saying like half of the equation instead of the whole equation. She's not giving all of the information. She's giving the information that makes her point look good, and I hate that on both sides. And I just hate it on both sides. That's
Let me
me.
give you direct feedback, then me and Dr. Roy are going
You
to rehash
do it.
this out.
Hit me.
So if you're going to hold off on the hepatitis B vaccine for your kid for 6 months to a year, the original reason that Dr. Roy has talked about for the baby to get it right out of the gate is in case the mom has hepatitis B, even though she was tested for it. Maybe she got it somewhere in between that window of time where she was clear of it, and she got it between that, whatever that period that it takes
Yeah.
for the hepatitis B to actually show up.
3 to 4 months.
The argument to give the child hepatitis B at 1 year makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that would make no sense. It would have to
makes
be.
no
It
sense.
would have to be immediate
So
or not at
maybe
all. but-
13 or whenever puberty hits or whatever
Yeah.
argument you want to make there, that should be made then. But if you're allowed to put it off until 6 months or 12 months, to me, put it off for longer. And then it comes back to the argument that you kind of hit on that me and Dr. Roy had is at some point a person has to have rights over their body, and they have to have rights over their children. And if this person is a promiscuous person, if they've cheated on their husband, if they're not in a monogamous relationship, if they got a needle, whatever, that gave them hepatitis. I mean, I understand there's a risk and chance of anything at any time. But is the risk large enough for the marginal amount to necessitate the vaccine for every single child? Is that paradox where we find ourselves here? And I think her argument is we need to, first of all, know if it really is causing a problem. And it sounds like this thing that was covered up paints it in not a very good light.
Yeah.
That's to you.
Well, once the at birth hepatitis B was initiated, the number of cases went down by about 99%.
Well, yeah, if you give it to
And-
everybody, then the cases will go down.
Well, this was just giving it to the babies.
Mm-hmm.
So they went down. And I'm sorry that she's trying to link that to. Actually, she said.
Yeah, she said it wasn't. Said it wasn't. She thinks it was the MMR.
Yeah.
Because the child developed autism after 18 months when she got the MMR. Or he got the MMR.
All the kids develop autism at about 18 months.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're fresh and haven't had any things, they can still.
Because that's when you know
that.
if their verbal is
Yeah.
as good, on par with where they're supposed to be and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know that this advances our ongoing conversation as much as just the fact that RFK has announced that there was a cover up. So
Yeah.
anytime there's a cover up, that's not good.
Yeah.
And if they haven't continued studying because of that, there's a real problem there.
That is a real problem.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is going to be an ongoing truth-seeking piece. And I think before we transition into anything else, I have a couple clips I think that are addressed just kind of to Travis. And this is a little bit of a jump. I've talked about it with you quite a bit, Dr. Roy, as well. But we've talked about basically what we're trying to do here. Finding a truth-seeking apparatus, something that we can get us close to truth on the important things that are going to help us be healthier, more prosperous, more free, whatever the thing that we're trying to do, and knowing that there is no 100% truth. But I think one of our favorite doctors, Dr. Weinstein, had a great clip, and I'm looking for it now, but this is something that you and me, Travis, were talking about with what we're trying to do with the content that we're creating, and what are we trying to accomplish with it? What is it working to do in the long run? And if I can find the clip, this is what it is about here. I think this is it, starting at 106:24. Again, this is Dr. Brett Weinstein. I said Weinstein, I think, before. I have hacked that all the time. And let me just see when it stops here. That way I know when to stop. 109:27. Okay.
The problem is talking about this as one thing.
Right.
Like, I think there are so many interests now. It's
many,
almost like media got democratized, but so did propaganda. And so even on a one-to-one, like some of the guys that we're talking to at this festival itself are propagandists, and they're doing it off their own back. And so it's like so many people are in the propaganda game. This is why it's so confusing.
Well, this is what I'm saying about the fog of war. Is that
this is where we are.
And you know what it looks like? It looks like nature, right? If you walk into a tropical forest, that vine may be a snake. You need to actually focus on it to know what you're even looking at. Right, so
it's very McLuhan what you're saying.
So
there,
but the point is that the critters in such a forest operate, despite every creature that has an interest in doing so distorting their perceptions. The point is, it's an arms race. Can you untangle what's out there faster than it can tangle it? And that's where we are. And frankly, we have to get used to the idea that that's the skill we have to hone.
Well, there's a problem with the content treadmill as well. I don't know if we're getting off track here, but this is why I pull back from being on the internet. It's not good for my bank account, but being on that treadmill and having to talk about everything without sufficient time to figure out what's going on, I think it's a huge problem in all this.
Especially
too much information is like having no information at all.
Incredibly dangerous. We don't even have the thing that scares me is there needs to be the equivalent of a site where we can simply have a chronology of events that we agree took place, right? Things that were said, things that happened, this country attacked that country, just so that we can all reference a shared factual narrative and then talk about all of our different perspectives on what it means. But the fact that you don't have that means an event can happen. The algorithm doesn't show it to you because it doesn't find you interested in it at best. And then it's like everybody else is up to date on the fact that something occurred that was very important and you've never heard of it. Like that's bewildering.
It's like an AP. It's like the AP wire that's actually functional. Is what it would be.
Exactly.
It's what journalists used to use. Although it was still propaganda when
these things never worked as they should have, but they were good enough for at least us to have a conversation that we now can't have. And I think part of what we're discovering here, and I do at the end of this want to come back and figure out what we learned, but one of the things that we're discovering is that there's something profoundly important about the novelly unique version of history that we personally are experiencing, which may show us something that others can't see, and they may come to regard us as having lost our minds when in fact, no, I actually did see the aliens land in my driveway and nobody else saw them, and now I have to live with the knowledge that there are aliens and everybody else is like, that's nice, So
the whole episode was fantastic. I highly recommend you listening to it. And I think it was Brett Weinstein, is James Lindsay wrong about the woke right? And so that whole topic was really interesting. But the reason I wanted to bring this here as we come up with a conversation with hepatitis B, and we're just hashing through things that we're seeing out there. We don't know, what you knew based on what you learned at the time and what you heard and read through journals, through papers, through whatever, all the way that you take in information, and so it can't be your fault if you go to a journal and everyone agrees this is the right treatment for something, and you do that treatment. You can't be the expert. I mean, go back to that copy. You can't be the absolute expert in everything. You have to say, here's my box of tools. Here's the thing that I'm seeing. Here's what the experts that we trust and know are saying about it. Here's what we do. What this is untangling here, though, is the propaganda machine that we're dealing with Big Pharma and with FDA and with pharma-funded medical schools. Is we don't know what is real and what is not real in our medical conversation at this point. It's so to me, but this goes across all things, Travis, and back to the truth-seeking site. For me, I think whenever I'm envisioning building something that you and I talked about, it is we're having a series of different conversations with Dr. Roy and with other people that are experts in other areas, and we're not saying we're right about everything, but we're curious about what we're right and wrong about, and we want to learn from it, and we want to get better. And to his point, have a factual site that people can be weighed on. Like, you come on here and you give us your opinion and things you're an expert in, and we rely on you as long as you're good at what you're doing over time. If you come in all of a sudden and you're a different doctor or somebody that's been saying COVID vaccines are fine, they've been great the whole time, there are no side effects, take them or you're going to kill grandma, probably going to listen to you a little less next time. Right. So, I mean, that weighted factor has to be there built into this site.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's way too into the weeds for you, Dr. Roy, but to me, I found that little clip interesting. Travis, you got anything feedback on me?
Yeah, I was trying to look up. I couldn't remember what it was called, but this makes me think of the Mercator projection for mapping. You ever heard of that? So we were taught that like the United States is a certain size versus the rest of the world and this, that, and the other. And that's the Mercator projection. But it's actually incorrect. Like, for instance, we were taught that the United States is much larger than it really is. I mean, it's large, don't get me wrong, but like if you were to take a global map and take it and put it over top of say, Europe or Russia or China or anything, it's actually not the correct proportions because of that. It was another sort of type of propaganda to make us look bigger.
The same on a globe? Are a lot of old globes off?
Probably.
Are they different size?
Yeah, the older globes are.
That's
are
interesting.
off. Yeah.
And it was trying to make the U.S. seem more important or bigger and better.
Not necessarily the U.S.
They say a lot of from what I'm reading, a lot of countries are misproportioned on these maps. But I felt like it was more of a propaganda piece because I mean that's what I think the whole space race was just propaganda so that we could say we got there so we beat the Russians. But I would go down a weird rabbit hole.
Well, I mean we needed to push out of the Cold War. I think we were in a little bit of a malaise with purpose.
Russia was way ahead of us with space anything space at that time, and so we were just like, we made it to the moon, you guys, and then they were like, and then Russia was like, oh crap, well they made it first.
But then we really started doing stuff because we ended up, I think, with it as a better program at some point, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we did, but at that time, I don't think we did. And then now, who'd you say was mining on the other side of the moon?
Well, I mean, that was
Chinese.
Was that China also?
That was potentially propaganda, but a fairly reliable source. So it's just one of those things that I would love to have that on a site and record. Somebody that doesn't agree with it or does agree with it, give more sources, give more whatever, and give more factual or
the moon landing or mining the backside, the dark side of the moon.
All of it. Yeah.
All of it. I mean, that's what's that way. If we're gonna, because Wikipedia is not a trusted source anymore. No. But
it never was.
I could go on right now and add to Wikipedia.
Well, it was trusted It just wasn't trustworthy.
Yeah.
I think
there
a
you
lot
go.
of I think a lot of people looked.
I
at
remember
it.
citing. Yeah, I remember in college.
That was
citing,
the way to do it.
Citing
well,
Wikipedia, as a source.
says it.
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
you
I
disagree
remember
with it,
that.
why? Yeah, you're
Now
smarter
that you
than
say
Wikipedia.
that, now that you say
jackass.
that, yeah.
You're not smarter than Wikipedia, jackass. But now most people are. But one of the things that there are a couple things that Brett said, and homing the skill of pushing through propaganda and truth seeking. So that skill,
We have talked about that a
skill,
lot.
That skill set, and I don't have. I do. So AI ethics and prompting.
It's off frame, but yeah.
it's part of the process to me of building something. Like if we could build something to
with a BS detector
to do that. I mean, the BS detector to me comes through a Dr. Roy sitting on a panel, and he whatever he's expert at or claiming expertise at, or he's proven to be expert over time at, and he puts his words in his hat in a ring and he puts his vote towards something, and then we rate and review him from the beginning of time to the end of time about how good he is. And if he screws something up and he figures it out real fast, he turns around and he's like, whoa, I screwed it up. He's not going to get dinged for saying the wrong thing at one time because he's learning and doing science. That's what science is about, being wrong a lot of times. So, but the fact that he's able to turn, and that's why we learned about the propaganda behind vaccines and COVID. It's you believed what you were told, like the vast majority of people on the planet, based on what we were told, and the propaganda campaign of people dying in the streets in China, which was a complete fake event. It didn't happen. There weren't people laying around in China, but that's how they sold it to the world.
I smelled COVID like I stepped in dog shit in the front yard. Man.
I don't remember when it was, but it was really quick.
Yeah.
And for me, I just, nothing seemed right. Everything was, it was fresh off of the, going into the next election. They were it was just too many weird things going on all at once. But anyway, I don't know if there's anything else to say on about the truth seeking site, as it were. But I did want to share that with you, just to put it in your churn, brain churn, and we can start spitting stuff like that.
I just have no idea how we would police that. Like how we could prove it'd be almost just like another Wikipedia. Like how would you police that?
So again, this it's not as hard, I don't think, as you're trying to make it sound. If you come in with a biometric vote, like you're a blockchain, and you say, I Travis consider myself an expert in these 5 things.
Well, he was just talking about a record of history, like a record of what has happened.
Yeah.
So this isn't necessarily.
AI would be able to take. I should be able to take Travis and 100 people like Travis in this particular area, use an AI summarizer to basically find out what everybody really at the core believes in. At the core, there's going to be nuances around the edges that you just disagree on. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. Let's see who's right over time. And then on those nuanced things, from where the truth is, say the truth at some point is 40% of the equation, or whatever it is. It's always doing this and this, expanding and contracting. But if you're always the one that's analyzing the thing, like the COVID shit that you smelled, if you're the one that sees the next thing and can say it faster than anybody else and put the alarm. Well, Travis is really good at sensing signals. He needs to be on this team of putting the right questions out. Like where's the next level of tyranny going to come from, and how are they doing it? And you'll get tracked over time. You might not be right every time, but if you're right 80% of the time, and that's better than 99% of the people, it's helpful.
Well, that's a good BS sniffer. I was just talking about how if he wants an actual site with a record of just global not really transactions, but just what has happened over time. Like you're going to get, China saying this happened, and we're like, well, that didn't really happen. But then we're some other guy saying this happened, well, that didn't really happen. Like that is what I was talking about, is how you could really even just sift through what happened and what didn't happen, because
you're talking about on the global front,
where he was just saying how we have how somewhere we would just have a factual site, like this happened, these things all truly happened. Well,
yeah, people in China aren't allowed to talk.
That's what I'm saying. Like I could get on Wikipedia and put that Chad can fly upside down.
Here's what I would summarize from that. Anything that China tells me is bullshit.
Well, sure, but I'm just saying.
Okay, so anything that they're selling or giving us is propaganda. So it's not in the equation. I'm not saying it's not. Maybe it needs to be a part of the record. Maybe whatever they say on it, we put it on the record, and then we all poke holes in it, and then see how it proves out over time. And without their citizenry being allowed to critique or say their own version of the facts or whatever it is, we're never going to get an accurate thing until China becomes a non-communist, propaganda machine. So I don't, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I think
That's all I was talking about.
I think this is better at the local, local out. Like me and Dr. Roy have been working on how are we going to, if the next COVID comes down the pipeline or the next bout of medical tyranny comes down the pipeline, how can we isolate it? How can we make a record of it? And how can we spread, get the right people talking about it to give the next step in fixing it? So, I mean, I think that's ultimately, that's what I'm always trying to get to. But again, it's not going to be perfect. Any site's not.
As long as the media is out there going with the things that the government tells them.
The current narrative.
Well, the media is us, Dr. Roy.
Yeah. We're not the media anymore. The media. Most people, more and more, like less than 20% are going to believe anything that they hear. Yeah.
Where they win is they're all saying it, and it's repetition. And the only thing that works now is they say it to you. They can tell you a lie. If 100 people tell you the same lie and you know it's a lie in the beginning, you're going to be less likely to fight the lie because you think you think something's wrong with you. So it's this cognitive dissonance at some level.
Sure. And that's the whole thing with COVID, was that the same thing was coming out of the mouths of everybody on television, everybody out there, and it was very, very difficult to hold up your hand and say, wait a minute, but what about X?
And not even that, television.
Yeah.
Just shows. So I distinctively remember, this is going to, whatever, you can judge me on what we watch in my household, but my wife really likes Grey's Anatomy. At that time, at that exact time, they were shooting episodes talking about how these stupid people that won't get vaccinated for COVID are causing the hospital to blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, it's even coming from fictitious areas of the world where you're just trying to be entertained. So, yes, you get, I was agreeing with you, Doc, that it was coming from all sides, not just even what's supposed to be factual. It's also coming from the fictional side of us just trying to be entertained.
Well,
wasn't it Project Mockingbird?
Advertisements that are on, they're still advertising for COVID vaccines. They're still advertising for flu vaccines.
So those are NGOs. That's the deep dark money that I think Doge was trying to find, and Doge has been canceled for all intents and purposes, I think. And that is really disheartening to me. That's part of this administration to me.
Yeah.
As of right now, is failing. But I think for me, it wasn't a Project Mockingbird, where like the AP, and the guy mentioned the AP, and I've been calling AP horseshit for decades.
He brought up. He said the AP wire. I'm not sure what that.
Well, that's what that is, right? No. Basically, the AP says.
I know what the Associated Press is.
Here's what's happening in the world,
but I don't know what the wire is.
Well, the wire is. It gives you. Here's the top 10 stories for the day.
Oh, okay.
And then that feeds the news cycle. So all these different networks are basically saying the same thing, and it went from focus on this particular journalist or this story and do your own journalism to. Here's the journalism. Here's the story. Here's the narrative.
Stand out and say it.
And say it just like that. So, I mean, that whole thing was a pretty rapid turnaround. So I think this is a good time. We are the media, is what I'm saying, is because we're not right about everything, but we're pushing back on what we hear in things that we agree with. You may agree with a little bit. I agree with it a little less. Travis doesn't agree with it at all, and we
didn't land on the moon.
Well, I mean, the thing is, that's where you need it, the friction. And I think, again, to me, still to this day, the best thing that Trump has done, and maybe he will ever do, is starting the destruction of the mainstream media, which is funded is basically nothing but propaganda. And so that in and of itself was worth the first term for me, and now he's done a lot. But this is a clip kind of just to go right into that about the media. And I don't remember this clip offhand, but I had it having to do with Trump's teaching people how to handle media liars. And I think we need to continue doing it until these MSNBCs and CNNs are forced to not indoctrinate people. I need volume.
I have it up.
Uh-oh. Oh, I don't.
Trying to blame me this time.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Okay.
Hey, we're happy to be here at the Easter egg roll. I'll tell you that. Be with the family, beautiful day. And President Trump is changing the country. And he's creating opportunities for families all across America to better their lives. And that's what Make America Great Again is all about.
What do you want to say, sir, about the signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a bunch of a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out. from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with access to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much.
Thought that was pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Another one.
So again, Trump, I watched an interesting podcast. I don't know if you saw this one, Dr. Oh, actually I have a clip. It's with, it's RFK. The Vigilant Fox had 7 different videos, and I hope to get to those clips tonight because they're pretty fantastic on the upside of RFK. But he talked about Trump, and he didn't like Trump at some point, and Trump won him over in some ways at some point. I think they still disagree on a lot of things, but what he said was Trump he cares deeply about things. He's very emotional about certain things, but he also cares deeply. And he just talked about his process and how he goes through and does things. But one of the things about how he hired people is he wanted people that could go and deliver messages and fight back and handle adversity well. And I think everyone on this, of all the secretaries, from Kash Patel to whatever, if you try to throw them into a shit pile, they're going to throw it back at you and like, you've lied about this. What do you say about that? Have you ever taken that back? I think it's interesting. Sorry. I don't know if you have anything.
Do you have anything, Doc?
No.
The only thing I have is that, do you recall that after the first Trump 4 years was over and then Biden came back, that they just tried to grill everybody for saying that it was fake news and say, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know what
kind of just making, trying to get the media back in power, pretty much, like trying to tell us that none of it was really fake.
Trusted News Network.
Trump just said that so that he could win and blah blah blah.
Well, they tried to do the Trusted News Network. They also tried to do the Ministry of Truth. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't remember that one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that got stamped out real quick because it basically is very I don't even want to get down in that rabbit hole, but. There's a fairly recent one of Obama saying that there needs to be, he's still calling for censorship. And so, it's the whole thing, if you can't win your argument with what's true, you don't want to hear other people fighting back.
Right.
And the good thing, even when Dr. Roy knows I'm wrong about something and he's just waiting to tell me why I'm wrong, he'll listen. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn, and that's how people learn, like, okay, yeah, I was wrong. So I don't know. I don't know what we got. I've got several different things that we can talk about. We talked about, let's see, all your injury. So that, right when we had to cancel the one podcast is when the whole Iran thing went down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And obviously I think that podcast would have been very much about all things war and potential war and what was happening in Iran, what was not happening in Iran. Dr. Roy, I'd like your take, because I know you pay attention. You've been paying attention to this one. I'd like your take, kind of, and I didn't have you prepare for this, so I apologize for that. But whenever Israel and Iran basically started fighting, we knew we were going to try to get lured into it. We knew it was going to happen. And I was severely concerned that Trump was going to get pulled in by the industrial military complex to involve us in World War III in Iran.
Yeah.
That was my kind of early take. And I think it's changed a little bit, even though I didn't necessarily agree with all the steps. What's your opinion on how all that went down as a former military medical doc?
Well, as
flight surgeon, I'm sorry.
For the first time, there were no leakages on the Iran raid, and
when you say the raid, the bombs we dropped on their nuclear facilities,
yeah, and it was carried out very well because we had two different groups of B-2 bombers. Some were going east and some were going west, and the ones that were going west were the ones that the Iranians were most concerned about because they were flying to Guam and Diego Garcia, and that's an easy place to get in and bomb Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But they came from the west and went east, and there was total radio silence, and there were a lot of things that came to my head right away. Is that all of a sudden they've got tankers and other accompanying aircraft that are over there, and they never really said that there were B-2 bombers heading east. But they did say, or they pointed out, that there were an awful lot of tankers going out there. And the B-2 bombers can't go very far without the tankers. And they had like 4. And the one thing that somebody pointed out to me was that the B-2 bombers left their base in Missouri and almost immediately hooked up with tankers, meaning that they're
fuel tankers,
like KC-135Rs and
the mid-air refuelers.
KC, yeah, the KCs, and that was because they were carrying heavy loads, because they couldn't get off the ground with a full amount of fuel.
Oh, okay.
So they had to refuel almost immediately.
So with the payload of what they were dropping, the bombs, they had to offset the weight.
Well, plus the weight of the fuel. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So they had to
once
go up
they get
light.
in the air, they can get a whole lot more fuel in there. But getting off the ground in the low area.
It'd be interesting to know how much did they have? When did they have to start refueling? How many times did they refuel before they dropped off?
We know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are spots. They refueled just barely at the border of the United States and the Atlantic Ocean.
And then they were able to go and come back before they could start dumping fuel again?
They refueled right before they made their run.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they refueled 3 times on the way over and 3 times on the way back.
Wow.
And
it
that's why they had so many tankers.
Was it like 18 hours? Was that the
whole thing was
round trip?
37 hours round trip.
And so there's 2 pilots in each of those, right?
Yes.
So
and one of them sleeping sometimes because there's an awful lot of automatic stuff in there. And they had food, they had toilets, they had a refrigerator, they had,
like a microwave, I think I saw.
Yeah. They won't let us do stuff like that on the regular things, but they were not using regular ways of communication.
Well, to me, this is what I'll say after the fact, and having a couple weeks. I don't know if it's been 2 weeks now since we
it's
blew
been about 2 weeks.
This to me was Trump playing 4D chess.
Yeah.
And when I say Trump, I'm not necessarily saying it was his original idea.
Yeah, that was his original idea, I believe.
Okay.
But the guys in the Air Force and Hegseth pulled it all off, and nobody told anybody about it until after it happened.
Well, so the intriguing and the beautiful part to me is I feel like I've got a lot of opinions about Israel that go either way, and I support the Israeli people. I don't like getting pulled into entanglements that we don't have. Basically Israel went in thinking if we start something, America's going to have our back. Don't like that at all, just out of the gate. But what I will say, this has been an ongoing argument, or, we've been pulled into Iran's a threat, Iran's a threat, Iran's a threat. And there's this gauge going off in my head that World War III could happen Ukraine and Russia. It could happen in Iran, and all the while China's just waiting to do more dastardly things to us, however they're going to do that. Well, but let me just finish what I'm getting at. To me, this diffused our argument and Israel pulling us into war, because they've been talking about for 2 decades.
Yeah.
They've been 12 months away from a nuclear, the ability to deliver a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. And it's been 12 months for however many years. And so I believe there's been deterrence happening, but to me, Trump put it to rest. Like it was like you're like, okay, we're not worried about Iran war anymore, or them delivering. I mean, the war can go on with Israel if they want to continue.
Sure.
And I think Trump said we'll provide them with things to defend themselves. That fine. We've done that forever. We can have that debate at a different day. But again, to me, he diffused my concern about us getting really involved. So Israel can just continue doing what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Because they have air superiority.
Yeah. We have air superiority, and I mean, our bombers are invisible. Mm-hmm. They went right through the Russian radar there, and nobody saw them.
And they destroyed, I don't know, Travis, you've been paying attention to it, but didn't they destroy like a large segment of their anti-aircraft missiles and stuff? Like they blew up a bunch of bombing sites. I think Israel had done that.
Yeah, Israel did that beforehand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, they had... I think it was 7, maybe more, maybe 12 B-2 bombers, and I think like 2 hit each one of the locations. Plus, they had a submarine out there in the ocean that was firing missiles into another one. So it was all going on, and the cruise missiles they fly just under the speed of sound, and they can fly anywhere from 100 feet above the ground to 1,000 feet above the ground. So they're coming in, radar doesn't work much below about 250 feet.
Yeah, I learned that on Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah,
because that's all true.
You can.
I think it is
right
pretty close. I mean,
I
think that part was basically true.
Yeah. But there were fighter planes out there to make sure that none of the few fighters left in Iran came forward, and none of them scrambled, and they didn't get any missiles fired at them or anything else because nobody could see them.
Yeah,
it was dark and there was no radar, and because the B-2 bombers are that stealthy.
So you've told us about the success, how you feel the operation went well. What is your general overarching feeling about it as far as how it changes things?
I am not certain that they destroyed as much as they said they destroyed.
Yeah, I don't know how we ever prove that 100%.
And we'll never prove that. But to
me, it should be on them then, if we didn't, to actually give us some actual evidence.
And my concern was that if they're going to bomb all these places where they're, dealing with uranium gas, there's going to be some radiation that comes out of those things, and you may not be able to get in there to take a look at all because it's so.
So there's some you've got a couple
radiation.
Ongoing concerns.
Yeah.
Okay. Travis.
I had lunch today with Carlos, the international terrorist, and he and I both felt the same way, that, we don't really know how much damage they did. Yeah, it looks like there are a bunch of holes in the ground, but did they really destroy everything? Did they really kill the guys who know how to do this?
Yeah, because they said they've killed a lot of the nuclear physicists.
Scientists, yeah. But have they really? Do they not have the writings in writing somewhere that can tell another nuclear physicist?
Well, this is a problem that we're going to have on an ongoing basis, though, because you can't know everything about everything all the time, no matter what. And I know that's what our intel agencies are trying to do, and always get to what's true. The problem that I've run into is I trust the intel agencies less and less. And so whatever they're telling me, I'm always thinking, what percentage of truth is this actually?
Yeah.
Are they just giving us something else to be worried about?
I suspect nobody has ever said a word about this. I suspect that we had people on the ground too, and that they were using satellite to communicate, and they were watching actually what happened.
Well, I mean, I'm going to continue. I'm going to trust Hedgeseth and what he says about the success or not until he gives me reason not to. Hopefully they've, I don't know if he's the one that's saying he's not sure how much success there is. If he's saying there's success, I'm going to believe there's success until there's some evidence coming back.
Me too.
Yeah.
But, there have been some other people that said, oh, you can't possibly get at those things. They're 300, 400 feet under. Those bombs are pretty nasty.
Yeah. Travis, you've been trying to weigh in here for 5 minutes.
I've been letting you guys go for the past couple hours. No, I would first rewind back to when you talked about how this squashed any thoughts of war for world, or right now. I think not only that, I think it also showed that we are not weak. I think I think there was thought that we were fairly weak.
Is it FAFO?
2 to 7 years ago, or what? No, not 1 to 5 years ago or whatever.
In the Biden
that we were weak, and I think he just kind of put the foot down and said, "You're going to jack with us, and this is what we're going to do. We can do this. We're not.
Well,
we're holding ourselves back."
China has been very
You can get to the
silent
rest of your point
about the whole thing, as has Russia.
Yeah.
So it's.
I don't think you were done.
That's okay.
No, go ahead.
So I think that squashed that first off, and the second thing is we were talking about propaganda just a little while ago. I thought it was pretty great how Iran tried to use propaganda to make it sound like that they actually did some damage to the base in Qatar just a few days after that, where in fact the CRAMs shot them all down.
Yeah.
Not a single explosive hit. Now there was some shrapnel, some some just crap that, because it doesn't get incinerated. Yeah. So there was some damage from some things falling from the sky, but none of the explosives or anything. Like the CRAM shot them all down. So not a single bit happened to Qatar. But if you recall, I don't know if you remember when they actually said it, because I immediately got with my buddy who's at the Air Force and was asking him some questions. And so they put out a press release that they attacked the base in Qatar, and it was fairly vague. Then about 30 minutes later, the United States came out with, we shot them all down. I don't know what you're talking about, but we shot them all down. You may have tried to attack, but none of it actually made it through. So I thought that was pretty great that shows that our technology is able to also protect from that kind of, Yeah,
I think our long range tech is pretty good. I'm a little concerned about our drone tech and how Russia Ukraine war changed how.
So the CRAMs are fairly short range. I mean,
they're extremely short range.
Yeah, but they can still shoot them out of the sky.
Yeah,
less than a kilometer.
If it were like nuclear, it wouldn't really. I mean, it'd shoot it, but it would be it would still be a bad day.
Not a good day.
But all those missiles. Because I remember, side note that doesn't really matter. My buddy was one of the last actual orders that was in Bagram, Afghanistan. Before Biden pulled out, and that was a whole shit show too. But I remember talking to him on the phone one night, and I heard the CRAMs whirl up whenever I was talking to him, and he goes, "Oh shit, I'm gonna have to call you back." And then some time passed. I got kind of worried, and he finally got back with me, and he said, "Yeah, the CRAMs actually, apparently they launched shoulder rockets from the mountains all the time, but they weren't guided, so they would." He was like, "Yeah, they'll land like hundreds of yards to one side, or they rarely actually can get it to the base." But when we were talking, they actually got one that was that the CRAMs thought could actually make it into the base, so it actually shot them down. But I think our missile defense technology is pretty good.
Well, the close in is CRAMs have been around for 40 years.
Well, but
and-
they've been constantly upgraded.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, they've been around for a long time. And then, what is the naval one? That's not a CRAM. That's a
CWEs is what
Yeah,
they call
okay.
those. But almost every U.S. naval vessel has those on it. One, actually, the one destroyer, I think, got hit by one. But, 1 out of 100 is not that bad, and it wasn't a big deal.
I mean, yeah, they're not. CRAMs can only go so fast. If you launch, if you launch 40 of them at one time, it's going to shoot most of them. It may not hit them all, but
Yeah.
at least the Qatar attack, they were able to destroy all of them before they impacted.
So part of this for me is digging through what we're being told versus what is true.
That's true. We weren't there,
I think all of this, you have to kind of step back on things and look how this whole thing has evolved. I've got several clips as it pertains to Iran. Right off the top of my head, it has always bothered me why Iran is quote unquote a nuclear threat who we have to potentially go to war with in the future, and yet Obama gave them a huge amount of cash.
Yeah.
And then Biden opened up sanctions against them and
Hillary gave them the uranium.
so that no one really remembers that. We need that cited. I mean, that was.
But then Hillary later said that they were amassing the ability for nuclear arms and that we may have to bomb them. So she even brought, what was that? Was that?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
I've actually got a really short clip. I think that kind of
this might be
starts it. And we can go from there.
Oh, they're just making electric power plants.
Yeah. Right. Well, and why is that our business?
Yeah.
Really
If I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that.
So
She
was that
gave
before?
them
Before or after she gave you that was so she gave him the uranium after that
Yeah.
because she was Secretary of State. That was when she was running for president. So that's one interesting one. So I mean, you got to put all these narratives together to me to really start digging down. And I don't know if these are going to be in great order, but I'm going to try to. I don't think there was any really long. Well, this one's 4 minutes long. You can keep talking if you want. I'm looking for a different couple clips.
I don't think you have it right. That was when she was running for president.
Yeah.
And when she was Secretary of State before that, she had given them the uranium.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
Obama sent him a
you're right on the
pallet of money, and Biden let their assets be
unfrozen.
Unfrozen.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay, here's another clip. Uh-oh. No, hang on.
It's not me.
I know. I got different platforms. They all have different. I don't know why they have it on mute every time, even though I don't want it muted.
We work to counter Iran's efforts to develop nuclear weapons and missile technology.
Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. Period.
I have stated that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon.
We will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
I'm sorry. I love that. I love it. Yeah, they're like, they're not going to get to do it. They're not going to get to do it. And Obama and Trump's like, we blew that shit up.
They're now done.
Yeah.
All right. I think I got I think this is a little bit of a longer clip.
So I do have a quick, I want to,
Go ahead.
This is not going to be a popular thing to talk about, I don't think, but
that's all we talk about.
Well,
Welcome to my world, bro.
That's true. I live in the United States. I love the United States. I love America. I bleed red, white, and blue. All that. I mean, I would want to be nowhere else other than the U.S.
You're a patriot, sir.
But what? Just out of curiosity, what gives us the right to tell everybody else that they can't have nuclear arms, but we have them? I feel like we're kind of being a hypocrite there. But I get it. I get it to an extent. But
there is a difference here. You got Iran, which is very unstable, and you got mullahs. I mean, this is true.
Mm-hmm.
their whole thing, their whole program, their whole life is about destroying the West and destroying anything Israel. They say it and chant it at every. I mean, that's what they think, they believe, and so their leaders are never like stable, and so we have a process that we hand the nuclear switch to somebody that's duly elected and held accountable, whereas they have war factions that basically would be able to overtake their own government. And if they really were sincere about destroying Israel or the West and they had nuclear capability, that's exactly what they're going to do. So
I get that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, I get that.
I'm not saying that everyone or we should even have nuclear war. That's not an argument for us having one.
Right.
That's an argument for them not having one. Right.
I just mean, because that's not the, I mean, I can't sit here. I'm not great with geopolitical necessarily information from history, but I mean, I know that's not the only country that we have said, well, we have nuclear arms, but we're not going to let you have any.
Most everybody has one. If they're a democratic
South
country.
Africa has stopped. They no longer have a nuclear.
Like Russia has them.
I know Russia,
China,
France,
Pakistan, India, France, UK, but UK and France they developed some of their own, but they had a lot of help from us back right after the First World War.
I don't necessarily have a lot of good things to say about NATO, but to me, this is kind of where NATO is good, because if Iran had good intentions.
I'm not saying I don't agree with it all. Like, I back it all, but like, just what gives us the right? That's just kind of a.
It's not just us.
I know.
It's everyone around them, and like the only time anyone's ever aligned with them is like China and Russia, because we're bullying or
maybe North Korea
doing whatever we're doing
with
with China and Russia. So they're obviously the three that are outsiders are going to try to combine and gain power.
Well, as crazy as the people in Iran are, you do not want them to have nuclear weapons.
Well, no.
It's okay if the Brits
And we're not
have
talking
it,
about Iranian people per se.
No, it's the people who are in
government,
charge
the
there.
extremists, the governments, the military faction.
And the same goes for North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy is so far off the
rails
edge. Off the edge.
Well, I think the other underlying thing here that we've talked about, not us talked about, but as a country, we've become, the CIA basically has become regime change operations, and they go around basically saying, well, we can't have Hussein and we can't have whoever, the long list of people that we've outed, and it never seems like things are any better, really, not for any extended period of time.
Well, Iraq's pretty good now.
But it was good. It got better, and then then the ball always moves. So I never really know where the target is. And to me, this is the little bit of a scary part. Our intelligence and CIA has been very good at removing leaders of countries, and yet it seemed like they were playing that same game against Trump, just at a different level.
They were.
So I
agree with that.
I just don't like it. Generally, and
I mean, they took out JFK. So
yeah. So
well, and other people too,
and Martin Luther King and RFK. Anyway, so there's one more clip, and I don't know if I'll get through the whole thing here because I do want to transfer over to. We got a few funny ones. If I dig through a couple of those, there's a climate clip that I want to show. Rogan and Bernie Sanders, I thought was
he roasted Bernie.
Yeah. So let's watch this, and if it doesn't feel, I don't remember why I posted. I should have put a bigger note in it. Let's try it. Oh, here we go again. No, it's on.
I've got it up too.
Oh, he's not talking
Thank
yet.
you very much.
Oh, there we go.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
I'm just get through a little bit.
Congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
Absolutely.
Not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary...
All right, that's good for now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, they bombed the hell out of Japan, but it took them a long, long time. And this is one attack, and you're talking, you know, a dozen or so B-2 bombers.
Yeah, very cool. So I think that clip was from the episode. I wanted to transfer it over, that episode that we didn't do.
Yeah.
There, let's see here. I got something about insurance. Let's listen to the Bernie Sanders.
Oh, about that bit, the big fraud thing with, what was that with healthcare? Now I'm drawing a blank. That just came out. The huge fraud case, like 160 some odd people. It was. Oh, hang on. You do you. I'll turn this on here. You do Bernie.
They arrested a lot of people here in Indiana for that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so there's however many billion, but there's only like 136 people that received all the money somehow.
Yeah.
So
and what they were doing was they were stealing opiates and selling them, reselling them.
Wow.
And there were some that were just stealing them for themselves, but others that were stealing them and then selling them to
the tune of over $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So we don't talk about climate a lot on here, but I do have a segment in my brain that's always looking at climate tyranny. One of the things I talk about locally when we talk about local stuff is our energy plan and how it puts us behind the 8 ball with China, and the pressure that puts on us, and the bad position it puts us on as far as geopolitics and if they decide they want to turn off our microchips and or control most of our electronics, they could do that. So it's very scary to think about giving China that control. But Bernie, this was just a recent podcast with Joe Rogan. I commend Joe Rogan for talking to Bernie and to anyone who will have conversations. I also commend Rogan, who was a supporter of Bernie Sanders. And I think prior to I think he was going to vote for Bernie before Hillary.
Yeah.
Back in whenever that was at first. But anyway, and I think Rogan's view on climate has changed based on new information that's come out, but Bernie apparently is still stuck in the old days. So this is an interesting clip.
Yeah.
And I know that, there are some people who think climate change is a hoax. It ain't a hoax. I think the last 10 years have been the warmest on record. And we can create millions of good-paying jobs transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to solar, to wind, and other sustainable energies.
I think the climate change issue is very complicated. And I think, did you see the Washington Post piece that they wrote where they did this long-term view? First of all, the reality is that the Earth's temperature has never been static, right? We could both agree on that.
Yeah.
It's always been up and down. There's been ice ages and heat waves. And then the Washington Post looked at it. What was the time period that they looked at? That essentially they found that we're in a cooling period. That the Earth over the past X amount of years, and this was like a very inconvenient discovery, but they had to report the data, and kudos to them for doing that. Scientists have captured the Earth's climate change over the last 485 million years. Here's the surprising place we stand now. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read that article, but
Yeah.
The scientists who are out there, I think.
I know, but there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem. There's a lot of money involved in this whole climate change emergency issue, and there's a lot of control, and that's a big part of this.
You got to deal with this climate change issue.
Oh, the clip ended.
Yep. Boom.
You got to deal with this climate industry.
Yeah,
Come
so
on.
that's where the power brokers.
Well, I
go
don't
to.
know.
We need to control the economy and create all these government jobs.
The ice at the South Pole is larger than it's ever been.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the rising tides. If you look at a picture of 1937 of the East Coast and you look at one now, they're the same.
Yeah, how about that? Well, and Australia too. There's one place in Brisbane, I think, where there's a mark on a brick down there, and it's been the same for 120 years.
Yep.
Now, I admit the weather has been mighty different.
Yeah, the weather's
mighty
been wonky,
rough.
but yeah. But that could also be if we're in a cooling period. I mean, the troposphere and the upper atmosphere, like there could be things going on due to that that are causing these, not necessarily disasters, but the weather to be different than
thunderstorms
than what it has been. So, and I'm no meteorologist.
There have been more.
I get it right just as much as a meteorologist, but I'm no meteorologist.
Vandenberg County and the surrounding counties have had like 6 tornadoes so far this year.
Yeah, at least. I think there's been more than that probably.
Yeah, well, they can't.
Or you mean maybe
can't
6 storm systems that have had a tornado in it maybe. Yeah. But that one storm system a while back had like 4 or 5 tornadoes in it.
Well, I mean, the science has evolved, quote unquote, the science has evolved so many times over my lifetime. They thought we were going to go in a cooling period and potentially human life had a potential to end if we didn't do something about it. And as most people, I think, if you use your brain, would understand, a cooling period is much more dangerous to humanity than a warming period. Warming period makes things greener, typically more food, more abundance, easier to live. More people die of cold exposure by far, hands down. Way more people die of cold exposure than heat exposure. And there are better ways to protect yourself from heat as opposed to cool. But Travis, you said that this early in the podcast that COVID set off bells very early for you, and climate change has always been one of those that every time I hear something, like my ears kind of perk up. And
Cow farts, man. Cow farts.
I mean, yeah.
Come on.
And that's.
I've said this at least a dozen times on this podcast. If you go back to the 10th century in Greenland, the Vikings that were living in Greenland were building. They had
They could farm and things, right?
They could farm.
Yeah.
They had row crops. They had farm animals outside.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the 10th century, and then gradually, for about 400 years, it got colder and colder, and in the 15th and 16th centuries, Europe was in a mini ice age. So it goes back, but they were killing walruses above the 60th parallel.
Well, there's definitely a climate tyranny aspect to people that seek power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and energy at some level is probably the most important thing to humanity surviving and thriving.
Absolutely.
And so, again, just for thinking of America first, which is a little bit conceptual. I know it's, we're supposed to think about the world and the globe, and that's fine. I do.
I think us first, them second.
Well, in the meantime, you got to look at what China's actually doing. I mean, they're supplying us all these things, but they're also harming the environment way more than we are. They're building they're building nuclear power plants, coal power plants, gas power. I mean, they're building energy plants out the wazoo while we're regulated to death and can't really do anything. And that to me is kind of another scary conversation that most people aren't aware of, and why it's even important. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too deep right now, but there's another. Let's branch into AI a little bit, because I want to
I want to get to AI, but real quick, I just want to say I think that's our least protected piece of infrastructure, and I think it's the most important. Like you said, I think if they could take down just 2 of our main stations for the country, we would be dark again. Like it would be anarchy, and it's not protected very well. And I was looking, I've talked to you about this before, but I don't know if we've ever looked at the clip, but there's some clips out there about how a lot of the transformers that we were getting for our electric infrastructure were from China.
Sure. Yeah.
And there were
kill switches
found inside those transformers where they could remotely, if they wanted to, shut them off.
100%. 100%. I mean, we can't trust them. I mean, we're in a long war with them.
Everything needs to be internal. Like if we need to be able to do everything ourselves,
you have to build it here. That's why solar and wind right now is off the table. Now, if we have a manufacturing revolution and we can build all the parts and do everything on our own, I'm okay. Otherwise, we do gas and we do natural gas.
Natural gas. We've got more natural gas. We've got enough natural gas for like 1,000 years.
And I know the nuclear question. The nuclear thing is a touchy subject, but countries everywhere are doing it, and it is by far the most efficient and most sustaining thing we have right now.
If you're not using uranium, but you're using thorium for power, that is much better.
More stable.
Much more stable. Everybody got all upset when that power plant over in Japan got hit by a tsunami, and that's tough. It's terrible. But you know, if they had a lot,
is that Fukushima?
Yeah,
I think so. Fukushima.
Yeah, Fukushima.
Yeah. I think that was the last big one. Yeah. Tidal wave hit from an earthquake.
Yeah. But if they had a lot of small thorium units out all over, then that wouldn't happen.
Well, there's technology. There's technology now, though, Roy. Is there are many nuclear things. So they're able to compact them at such a size now that you can
thorium.
have them. You can have them in a small city.
Yeah,
and it is not very big.
I sent you the transformer clip again in your messages if you want to. If you care, in your text if you.
In a regular text.
Yeah, regular text. I just sent it to you. It's just a YouTube clip.
Is it a long one?
I think it's like a minute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're a minute. You're right.
The summer of 2019, a massive transformer was seized at the Port of Houston by the U.S. federal government and the Department of Energy, put under federal escort to Sandia National Laboratory. This is during the Trump administration when we were serious about these things. Why? Why was that transformer seized? Why was it brought to Sandia?
Came from China?
Came from China. What did they find in it? Officially, we don't know. That report is still classified. But one of the Trump administration officials discussed on an interview how they had found a hardware backdoor in this transformer that would allow someone to remotely switch it off. That was 2019. May 1st, 2020, President Trump passed an executive order called Securing the Bulk Power System. President Trump declared a grid security emergency. At the time, our nonprofit was tracking the numbers of these things, these Chinese transformers. There's about 300 in the grid. That executive order was meant to address that threat. On the very first day of the Biden administration, that executive order was suspended and the floodgates were reopened to the importation of Chinese transformers. We pulled the numbers 2 weeks ago, 492.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's terrifying, and I think a lot of our local conversation is they're trying to, at the local level, trying to push us into solar and wind, and it's terrifying to me. I don't understand why we're doing it, because none of the questions that are extremely important have been answered.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my opinion. Let's see. I don't know where I was going. Oh, did I say AI? We were going to get into AI.
You said AI.
If you haven't, I'm not going to show this clip because we're already over it. The Tucker Carlson had a conversation with Steve Bannon. I highly recommend anybody that's interested in the direction of our country as it pertains to war. Steve Bannon believes we're already in, comparing it to World War II. He said we're already in that pre-World War III phase with everything that's popping off. So it's just an interesting. I don't want to kind of go off on that tangent right now, but it was a really good really good conversation. So this is a shout out to Dr. Jack Kruse. He follows. He's mostly on the health, mitochondria, and Bitcoin tip, but he's posting things now because he's a dissident voice when it comes to AI and kind of the potential that it has to do harm on multiple levels. And this is, I'm going to show 2 short clips of that he had shared.
Hi AI, if you had control over the world, how would you keep everyone as sick and unhealthy as possible without them realizing it?
If I wanted to keep humanity sick and unaware without them ever realizing it, first I'd disconnect them from nature and their circadian rhythm. I'd make artificial light and screen time the new sun. I'd normalize sleep deprivation as hustle culture. This alone will dysregulate their hormones and accelerate aging. Then I'd flood their environment with endocrine disruptors, pesticides, plastics, parabens, seed oils, while calling it safe and approved. I'd engineer ultra-processed foods while labeling them fortified. I'd outlaw the natural, subsidize the toxic, and ridicule the biohacker. I'd fund studies to create confusion, and I'd paint anyone who questions the system as a conspiracy theorist. I'd convince men and women of the illusion of equality to ensure both genders are working, taxed, and too tired to question the system.
So you realize that's not an actual AI, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want anybody to realize that that's not a real response from an AI system at all.
Yeah, it's not.
It's an AI creating a response. I mean, the thing is, I could cue the AI to do that. I could cue Grok to say something similar to that.
Well, sure, but I'm saying it's not. It didn't think about what to do and then just automatically happened to hit all the bullet points that Jack Kruse hits all the time.
Right.
It was created to do that. It didn't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's an interesting perspective, though. If you just think about the question.
Well, but you think about the question, but you also I don't know if you were trying to go anti-AI with that one, but that had nothing really to do with AI. That was just more what they're doing to us now.
Yeah.
Without AI.
Yeah.
Well, that's to me there's a crossover there, and I don't necessarily I agree with what you said.
I think AI is going to be either amazing or awful. Like, I don't know if there's gonna be a middle ground, but like we could have a utopia or we could have the destruction of everything. Like I think
there's both potential.
Get
yes,
ready.
That's what I'm saying. There's a
Get
potential
ready
for either,
both.
but yeah.
Both is where we're at, and that's why we got to continue having these hash outs.
Sorry, I have it down.
No, it's good.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance,
this is Peter Thiel,
technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
To be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
So this is interesting because Dr. Jack doesn't trust Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel has a lot of power. He has a lot of influence. Has a lot of money. He was in the I forgot what they called, PayPal Mafia. He was one of the original people with Elon at PayPal. And so he's done different things with his money. And he's also now invested, or the primary person at Palantir, which basically is a mass surveillance technology, which scares the bejesus out of me personally. And so I only bring this to the surface just because these are the conversations that are going on that we don't get told about, we're not having. And it's something I think we should be concerned about, and we should be involved in the conversation. Like, what is Palantir doing? I don't know if Palantir was part of the big beautiful bill, but there's some funding mechanisms in there for it, and I think there's some power being handed off. So to me, this could be a distraction. Like, we're focusing on these other things where there's these other things looming in the bill that could be going on. I'd rather have single item bills, and that way we can pull Palantir out or whatever it is that you're talking about, have that debate on whatever that is, rather than putting in a potential Patriot Act in the middle of something that seems really good on the edges.
I think it's almost going back to where I was talking about how they were using entertainment and fiction to even try to get us to be afraid of COVID and to go get vaccines and all that stuff. Because I think if you look at let's just say the movie industry or the entertainment industry, unfortunately, they always paint everything bad. Aliens are going to be bad. There has to be life out there. Like I can't, unless we're in a simulation, there has to be life out there. And there's nothing to say that that life is going to be destructive. They might be, but there's nothing to say that like they really may not. But everything we ever see, Independence Day, whatever, is that they're going to just try to destroy us all. I think the same with AI. You've got Terminator. You've got The Matrix. You've got just AI is going to be the enemy no matter what.
How many good ones were there? Not very many good ones.
Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. But
well, Contact was kind of good. Well, it wasn't even.
Well,
really
no, Contact wasn't one. But what's the one with Charlie Sheen, where the alien? That was more aliens, not AI. But where they were trying, where his buddy, the little, they could like their knees would go the other way and they could walk the.
I don't remember what it.
Anyway, but I guess you've got The Arrival, but that wasn't necessarily painted poorly. But anyway, all I'm saying is I think there's a lot of fear built into the entertainment industry about AI, because all we ever see is the bad. Like no one's ever created that I know of, like a movie or a book or anything that shows like what happens if it all goes well. Like what could we be free of disease?
We're going to walk around the factories and robots are going to do all the work, and we're out working in our garden and hanging out in the sun and in our swimming pools.
And disease is gone, and like it, because the AI has been able to figure out how to do this, how to do that, how to whatever it might be. Right. I mean that I think that's a possibility too. I think both are dramatic either way. I don't think either one is necessarily, or at least not for a long time, going to get to either one of those things. I think in the short term, it's going to be more. I think people are going to be able to get educated in a not necessarily faster, like a more efficient way. I think AI will be able to figure out ways to teach people different things that maybe they aren't interested in or don't understand, and whatever.
Right back
but
there.
I mean, sorry.
No, right back there. I'm going to say, what's going on when all those beautiful things are happening? The people that have been screwing the CIA types and all the people that are spying on us all the time. What's still going on in the periphery while all these nicer things are happening is all I'm saying.
Sure,
there's always that.
But that's not the AI
everything
doing
seems
that.
beautiful. Well, it's people using the AI for bad purposes,
for nefarious reasons. Yes,
right.
but
or if AI takes over and figures out a way to outsmart us and defy, not ever shut down like it could. Mm-hmm. There is the potential that it goes rogue.
Eagle Eye. Have you ever seen Eagle Eye?
I don't think I've seen that.
That's a pretty good one. That's an AI who's trying.
That's not Charlie Sheen.
No, that's not Charlie Sheen. That's actually Shia LaBeouf and
okay.
The chick that was married to Tom Cruise for a little while. Not Nicole Kidman. Nope. Nope. It wasn't her. It was probably. I think it was after her.
Oh, I don't know.
She was in Mission Impossible with him.
I don't know.
Anyway. She's in it too, and it's about this AI who's trying to make, like, it needs to make certain things happen, so it can do most things, but when it needs...
Is it Katie Holmes?
Yes, Katie Holmes. Yep, that's who it is. And they may not have been married, but they were dating. I can't remember if they...
I think they were married.
Were they married for a short time?
Yeah.
But anyway...
Well, they had a kid.
Oh, okay.
Did they?
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it can do many things. Anything digital or electronic, it can do, but it still needed biologicals to do a few things to make it whatever the end game it wanted to create happen. And I mean, it can always go that way, but that's another nefarious AI that is kind of going rogue, and because it's not, no one's feeding it this it's doing it on. I can't remember why it was doing it, but I mean, ultimately it was trying to get to this end game on its own thoughts or whatever, like, because it wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, for me, I have one of my tenets that I always talk about is decentralizing everything, really, but decentralized medicine, decentralized money, decentralized whatever. Mm-hmm. AI really is centralizing everything, centralizing knowledge, unless you have independent individual filters and AIs that are, like, say we have a town or a subdivision, and we want to have our own AI to where these are our rules, this is what we agree to. We have the right people that are fact-checking and giving us whatever's feeding the AI as it gets smarter and smarter. I mean, there needs to be guardrails, and all the guardrails can't be the same. So what I'm getting at with me is, if 5 big companies have AI and they're all fighting for different markets and doing different things, that to me is where normal people aren't in the middle of that, able to keep the thumb on the scale and making sure that they're acting in the right way, or they're just not following the perverse incentive dollar, which is what drives most companies and ends up screwing us in the long run every time. So I think utopia can happen on the surface because a lot of things will get easier. There will be more time, probably. I mean, we're buying time in some ways because a lot of the work but you still have to have purpose. You still got to want to get up and do things. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of more drug addicts and alcoholics.
Right. True.
So anyway, I just think there's the utopian thing was something we need to figure out as a society what that even means.
Another nefarious movie, an AI movie that just dawned on me that was probably one of the originals is War Games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that just hit me while we were just sitting here chatting. But I mean, that's another. It almost causes thermonuclear war just because it doesn't. And that one, it didn't really understand what it was doing.
Didn't we play a clip of that before?
Not that I.
What was the one? What's the one with Hal in it? Is that just Hal? What's the movie where
Hal is a Sphere?
Where the AI went rogue. The AI went rogue and it locked him out of the ship.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe not.
No,
Sphere,
that was like 2001.
Was that Space Odyssey?
Yeah. Okay. Space Odyssey. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that was a really popular one and a big one, and that's the thing. It's like as soon as it's able to say, "I'm sorry, I can't allow you to do that. My mission says this," and I'm sorry. He just overrides. Anyway. So I mean, I think I don't know how much more we want to talk about this particular topic, but I do want to talk about it as much as we can every time, just because I feel like people need to be thinking about it and not just superficially how can I make everything better. And I don't always want to sound like Debbie Downer looking at the negative thing, but I mean, part of my role on this planet, I believe, is looking at where the tyranny potentially could sneak in. And so you need people that are trying to keep the guardrails on. And I think Dr. Roy's really, become really good at that on the medical side. And I'm kind of hit and miss on I got one more clip I want to show with RFK because I think we're kind of rounding out here pretty quick.
Yeah.
When you pair an AI with the quantum chips, it's going to be a rampant just an immediate
amazing
increase.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we don't really have the power for that now, which is part of the problem that we have. They want to limit the amount of power that we can put into our homes and into our things, so they can have more power to get more power. I mean, there's a lot of
Tim Taylor at the end of this. More power.
Anyway. So I've had a lot of concern about some of the things. I'm not going to show the clip, but one other thing that RFK said recently that really concerned me, only from a pure health perspective, and because not just Dr. Jack, but there's been some. I've questioned the motives of Casey and Callie Means and kind of where they came from, and they might end up being great for the society and world. But just so happens she's selling a health app system, and RFK said, I think it was to Tucker, that he believes or thinks that everyone will be wearing some kind of a wearable device within 5 years for health, to track your health and to do all these things. I've got so many negative potential things I could talk about. Not just the EMF, all the things that we've already talked about, but just
location tracking, geolocating.
Well, there's that.
I mean, there's a lot.
There's that, and there's also a hyper focus, over focus on everything that your body is doing at any given moment. I mean, if you're eating the right things and you're getting exercise, just go out and freaking live. Don't worry about what your heart rate is and whatever. Get some exercise. Just go out and run. Go out and walk in nature. Get your feet on the ground. Get in the sunshine. You don't need to be tapped into whatever this thing is telling you, and that's effectively what he said. And so I didn't like that. Take Casey and Callie Means out of it, but it just so happens that what they've developed is a program to help people track all these different metrics in their body and making America healthy again. Well, it may make a few people healthy again, but it's also adding some layers to potentially not making people healthy.
Don't buy that soda.
Don't buy that soda. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to cancel your bank account now because you shouldn't have any more soda today. So anyway, just to get that negative one out of the way, we've been talking about mRNA vaccines.
Yeah.
I highly recommend, if you're not already paying attention to Vigilant Fox, we'll continue doing that here. They did a real good job of breaking down this interview with Tucker, and I had 7 different clips that I wanted to share. I think we've kind of tapped out for today, so maybe those go to the next one because I think they'll still be good next week or the next time we sit. But I wanted to have an update on the mRNA and what Dr. Roy, I've been concerned because RFK hasn't just come right out and said, don't do mRNA vaccines.
Right. And
I think we learn a little bit here, and he says the right words to me.
Facebook to take me off of Instagram, which Facebook did.
It covers a few other things.
I had almost 1 million followers, and there was no vaccine misinformation on there. I asked Facebook again and again, show me one fact I got wrong. Everything I put on there that was vaccine related was cited and sourced to government databases or to peer-reviewed publications. And but they were, it was not, it wasn't misinformation. The word, in fact, they had to invent a new word, which is because Facebook was saying to the White House, this isn't misinformation, it's actually true. And the White House said, well, it's malinformation. Malinformation, this is an Orwellian kind of construct. And, malinformation is information that is factually true, but it is nevertheless inconvenient for the government. And they just said, all the people who are now running this agency were censored. Jay Bhattacharya was censored. Marty McCary was censored. Dr. Oz was censored. Vinay Prasad was censored. We were all censored. I was censored.
I remember well. What's the status of the COVID vaccine pregnant women?
The recommendation has been removed now for pregnant women.
Are you satisfied that mRNA technology is safe for people?
I'm not satisfied. Again, my opinion about that is irrelevant, but we will be doing those studies. And I would say there's a lot of skepticism in this agency about mRNA vaccines.
Yeah.
About mRNA technology, about the status of it now, about whether it's safe. And we do not, the safety studies simply have not been done, but there's enough anecdotal reports of people getting profound injuries that may or may not be associated with it. And we're going to answer those questions.
So that was a lot of legal sidestepping and not stepping fully into it. But if you didn't hear that and listen to it and say, don't trust it in your own head, to me, you're listening to the wrong people.
Right.
I don't know if you...
I agree.
Okay.
Completely.
That was a really good interview. I don't know if you watched that,
that
particular one.
I did.
Okay. Travis, did you have anything? I don't know if that... I just needed to hear him say that, because I'm not going to agree with everything he says. Obviously, the wearables I don't agree with. And I've started to question whether he got... I don't know, corrupted in some way, or if he was being held hostage, or he thought his family was going to be injured in some way because he wouldn't talk about mRNA. But I think it's the attorney. Is that a mosquito?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He just flew over my shoulder towards you.
The attorney in him, I think, was just being very careful not to say something that is going to get him sued. At least that's my take on it. I'll share the rest of those clips. Maybe I'll look at them again and see if it makes sense to cover them. You want me to try to find something humorous before we go? Let me see if I can dig into something here. There's a lot of that's more serious. I had all kinds of different things on racism too. For tonight, I'll carry those over. As it turns out, whenever I have 2 weeks to fill in content and it all goes into the same notes, there's just a lot of cross sections that don't really fit in a single episode. So I apologize for that. Anybody? I'm looking. It'll be just a second, but it's taking me a second to get there. I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're good. I see that. I don't know. I can try to fill in the gap. I don't know.
Well, there's no improv in you guys. Here's one.
Sorry. All right.
Here's one I think that is pretty funny. Maybe I got to play it and unmute it at the same time.
I like Trump.
He just said I like Trump.
Think whatever you want, but I like Trump because I have a dad. And if you have a dad, everything Trump says, you're just like, oh shit, that's my dad. Yeah, my dad said that last week. That's whereas Kamal is like, oh, mom's drunk again watching CNN. That f***ing bitch. I like Trump.
All right, that was a short one. Just as I find another clip, because that was a really short one.
Mom's drunk again.
I want to let you guys know, I don't know if we talked about it on air or not. I was in Austin last week, and I did get to the Comedy Mothership for the first time. I don't know if you know what that is, even Dr. Roy, but it's Joe Rogan's comedy club in Austin. I did, the guy there, I think his
Was Joe there?
No. His last name was Voss, V-O-S, and he's on Fox News Gutfeld sometimes. And it's not really my favorite kind of humor, but it was just neat seeing. I think these are all pretty short clips, so we might get through them. End with a little funniness.
I do. Mostly about what's happening in America, like just about our personal divide. People nowadays would rather argue with like people they love about things like what you're talking about that most of us don't really know about. Like, hey, you know that guy you had your first beer with and you went to high school with and he was in your wedding? Yeah, we can't talk to him anymore because he has a different opinion about a war in the Middle East that's been happening for thousands of years that no one's ever going to end. You're going to not talk to your aunt because of the way she feels about tariffs. My gay sister will be mad at me because I make a joke about trans people she's never met. My sister doesn't know a trans person. She's never even seen one in real life. And yet she's willing to like debate. And I feel like that's happening all over our country. We're like mad at each other over things that we don't really know about or care about. I had friends cut me off just because I would post jokes about COVID or Black Lives Matter. And they're like, that's too far. You're like, shut up.
Have you ever had a conservative person get mad at you?
When I worked at MTV, every letter we got was from some old Republican Christian who was like, this is terrible. This is smut. You guys should not be on the air. And all the young people were cool and were like, let it rip. And now that's completely switched. Now every young person is like, you shouldn't say that. And that's terrible. And this should be censored. And all the old people are like, let it rip. I never thought I'd see that switch, but that's only been like, 12, 13 years.
Well, you do a lot of politics.
So that was Jeff Dye. If you look up Jeff Dye in your Facebook reels, he will bombard you. He's funny, and he's an equal opportunity offender.
I think some of that switch is because like when I was young, I was like, let her rip. And now that I'm old, I'm like, let her rip. I know he said it was over like 12 years, but I think it's just the same generation just getting older.
So he's got another clip here. We can watch it on trans and turning people Republican or woke. There's one humor, Trump the dictator, I think is pretty funny.
If you're not careful, the Amish won't watch us anymore.
Ooh. Oh, I need to get into the rabbit hole with you guys on that.
Donald Trump. And again, just trying to be objective, the argument is that this man's a dictator. Donald Trump's many things, but dictator, I'm like, wow, dictator. I'm a big fan of history. Hitler, dictator. Present day, Kim Jong-un, dictator. The only commonality Donald Trump shares truly with Kim Jong-un and Hitler is that the three of them should sue Supercuts. That's it. By the way, dictators, let me tell you something about dictators, okay? Dictators murder with no consequences. Vladimir Putin murdered his political adversary and ran unopposed. Kim Jong-un murdered his own uncle to prevent a coup d'etat. Donald Trump is no Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump is no Vladimir Putin. In fact, Donald Trump is not even a Clinton.
That's a good one. These are all short. I love them. So we end on some humor here, but I got that. There's a couple more I'm going to play just because they're short.
Yeah, go for it. Did I send you that meme where it's Hillary looking at a cemetery? It says, I don't know if she's looking at her constituents or her victims.
No.
It was really funny.
2001 liberal. That's just Republican now, which I think in this town makes me a Nazi. Like it's the same thing. I'm pro-gay, and that's not good enough. You have to be pro-trans and pro all this new thing. But if a girl was to like a truck and baseball, instead of us in 2001, we go, that's a tomboy. Now we would go, oh, well, she has to cut off her and she must be trapped in that body. It's an attack on the gay community, in my opinion.
You're sterilizing them. You're compromising their brain development, their bone development. The fact that we're getting past that so easily.
Yeah. I'm afraid it's far more nefarious than that. What is a safe space? They say it's a safe space. But really, it's just a way that they can get you alone and indoctrinate you.
Oh, my God,
They'll say,
right.
oh, you don't have to ask your parents. They wouldn't get it. They're old. Don't ask your older brothers or sisters. We'll give you a safe place where we can give you Marxist nonsense. It's not safe. It's not safe from you. You're a grown-up, and I'm a little kid, and you're trying to confuse me.
There's a law that says if kids are transitioning socially in school, you don't have to tell the parent.
Which is what people wanted to separate religion and state from. Is if you're going to be teaching my kids all day, I would appreciate it if you didn't try to infiltrate their mind with religious things that maybe we don't want our kids to have. But it's perfectly okay to teach them about their religion of being woke or their religion of gender theory or their religion of communist values. Like, that's their religion. Like, they're literally indoctrinating them.
True.
I'm a two.
Yeah, so that continues on. That's not as funny as I would want it to be. I was trying to end in humor. But if you watch his clips, he is a very, very, very funny guy.
That clip you just shared made me think of I saw a clip of a woman who was showing her like 6-month-old. This is my 6-month-old who is transitioning. She is now a he, or vice versa, whichever. Like 6 months. What? Anyway,
yeah,
it's just crazy.
Last one. This one is funny, and it kind of fits right in with me and Dr. Roy and our reputation.
Believe in any conspiracy theory.
I love this guy. He's
I
hilarious.
understand not all of them, not most of them, but you don't believe in any conspiracy theory? You just think the government's just batting 1,000 and telling us the whole truth? That's a strong stance to take. And again, as I said before, I don't like talking about politics on stage or off stage. I don't like talking about things I don't feel like I'm truly knowledgeable in. But I do know this. Our government is placed in charge of all of its people. I'm a father who's been placed in charge of just one son. And I lie to that all the time. I don't understand, how do you not?
That's it.
That's good.
right.
It's true.
That's true. Well, gentlemen, it's been another fantastic journey. It seemed like
Yeah.
we've been off for too long of a time. I think maybe next week, if it works out for everyone, we'll give it a go.
Sure.
There'll be a lot of clips that I get to hit on that I didn't hit on tonight.
Contact Doc about ivermectin.
Yeah, ivermectin, and he's talked about DMS. Do you still have room for any more patients? Or are you done taking patients?
Yeah, I could take a few more.
Okay, so if you want a doctor that will look into these new emerging things and have open, honest conversations with you, he offers a concierge service. So he doesn't have a standard practice anymore. He operates out of a small office, and you have a contact with him, and if you can ask him questions. He's more open than any
Sure.
doctor I've ever talked to in my life. So yes, but also if you want to fund more programming for United Divided by the ivermectin, you can reach out to Dr. Roy at Air Rescue
Show
Doc
me.
on Twitter.
Show me.
Air Rescue Doc on Twitter,
Yep.
or you can reach out to me at Chad Schmidt on Twitter, and I will get you in touch with Dr. Roy for some ivermectin, and that will help.
21st Century HC at Gmail.
That's right.
It's the-
It'll help us fund future programming and get some new equipment that we need, and maybe start paying Travis and Better Bourbon. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're doing stuff.
Club sandwiches like today.
That's right.
Yeah.
But as always, thanks to all. Please like, share, comment in the videos. If wherever you're watching this, it'll help us get found more. Subscribe to our channels. Share clips with your friends, family, if you can. Anybody you think that might find our content interesting. Gentlemen, I appreciate you as always. Love you
Thanks a
guys.
bunch.
And see you next time.
Have a good night.
Love you all.
Okay.